I didn't realize until my dying breath that my husband never touched me because he was deeply in love with my best friend. They spent their entire lives yearning for each other yet never being together, remaining chaste for one another. My best friend's professor husband also lived like a celibate monk his whole life. After being reborn, I quickly took the professor's hand and said, "I like you, let's be together." The professor's eyes darkened. "Perfect, neither am I," we instantly clicked. But this time, it was my husband and best friend who weren't on board. Worn down by lung cancer until my last ounce of strength was gone, I finally closed my eyes, yet my spirit didn't vanish, it simply left my body. In the hospital room, I watched my husband, who had just entered his 40s, embracing my childhood best friend tightly. They looked like a pair of lovebirds whispering sweet nothings to each other. How? Don't be too sad, Ran is gone, Suchi, I'm so glad I still have you by my side. I'll always be here for you from now on, just like Ran would have been, and I want to have your child, so we can be together as a family. You don't need to replace anyone, it's always been you in my heart. How? I love you too, perfect, just perfect. If I weren't a ghost right now, I'd give these two shameless old fools a round of applause. I remember when Suchi's husband passed away from stomach cancer, she didn't seem all that upset. Instead, it was my husband Wei Hao, with red-rimmed eyes and full of pity, who went out of his way to handle everything for her. He even told me that since she'd be all alone from now on, I should look after her more. I was comforting her when she said, "Truth be told, I've never truly loved Gu Qinghua in this lifetime. You have no idea how much I envy you having a Hao by your side." I was so naive back then, completely missing the subtext of her words. Holding her, I replied, "We're all family here, if it makes you happy. You can even boss him around like he's your husband." When I said this, I didn't notice Wei Hao knocking over his plate in agitation, nor did I see Suchi gazing at him with tender affection. Looking back now, my words were completely inappropriate. After 20 whole years of marriage, I never realized they'd been carrying on behind my back all along. My heart brimming with resentment and frustration transformed into a powerful force, dragging my soul into the abyss. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back in the cafe from 20 years ago. I was sitting at a table with my 3 best friends, attending a matchmaking social event. Across from us sat the young Professor Gu, who would meet an early demise. He wore gold-rimmed glasses, his delicate and handsome features looking as if they were straight out of a manga. In my past life, Suchi claimed she didn't like tall men. After the mixer, she took the initiative to ask Gu Qinghua out, and they quickly got married. Meanwhile, I ended up with Wei Hao, the rough-around-the-edges guy nobody picked. After spending days walking and talking together, gradually realizing he wasn't so bad. Looking back now, it's clear Wei Hao's gaze was glued to petite Suchi the entire time. I've decided to strike first. Even if we don't end up together, saving Gu Qinghua once would still count as a good deed. Professor Gu, right, I quite like you, how about we go for a walk? Suchi's eyes flickered with surprise as she looked at me. I usually let her make the first move in these situations. Gu Qinghua remained silent for a moment. I expected a rejection, but then he said, "Sure." Gu Qinghua stood up and picked up my backpack for me. "Let's go." It wasn't until we were quite far from the restaurant that I finally snapped out of my daze. I looked at him apologetically. "Sorry about what I said earlier. Please don't misunderstand. I didn't mean." "Didn't mean what?" Gu Qinghua smiled faintly, pushing his glasses up with his index finger. "Ms. Chen, are you saying you don't want to go on a date with me?" His smile sent all rational thought flying right out of my head. All that remained was the drumming of my own heartbeat. To be honest, Gu Qinghua's looks don't align with current beauty standards. He's too refined and delicate, with a slender build that suggests he'd be useless at manual labor. Yet when his eyes met mine, I still heard the unmistakable sound of my heart skipping a beat. Professor Gu, aren't you put off by my circumstances?" Gu Qinghua smiled at this. "I think Miss Chen is quite lovely." Suchi didn't come to see me in the following days, probably busy dating Wei Hao. I couldn't be bothered to ask, and instead threw myself into dating Gu Qinghua. Back in those days, instant romance wasn't a thing yet. What people called dating was just strolling down the street together, talking about dreams and aspirations. Just as I was expressing my regret about having to drop out of school to support my younger brother, he suddenly cut me off. "Retake the college entrance exam, Ran, what? Retaking the college entrance exams. Credentials are only going to matter more down the road." "Exactly, given a second chance at life." I'd been so focused on avoiding the whole Wei Hao and Suchi situation that it never even crossed my mind. But after being a housewife my entire life, I'm completely clueless about all this. I felt a pang of self-doubt again. Am I really capable of this? He took my hand and said, trust me, Ran, I know you can do it. I had just sat down after getting home when I heard someone calling from the doorway. When I went out, I found Suchi standing right at the entrance. Her face was flushed with anger. Chinran, why are you trying to steal Gu Qinghuai from me? Unlike me, who had to care for my younger siblings and became prematurely serious, Suchi was a vivacious girl who dreamed of Qiong Yao-style romantic love. That's why I always thought Suchi and Gu Qinghuai only grew apart after marriage. After getting married, Wei Hao and I were busy building our life together, so we rarely had deep interactions with them. Wei Hao is a skilled tradesman with a decent income, but he doesn't have that typical macho attitude. He's actually quite considerate. When I was pregnant, he'd finish work early to cook for me. If he noticed I wasn't feeling well, he'd massage my feet and chat with me about everyday things. Suchi saw this once when she visited us, and she remarked enviously, your old Wei sure knows how to sweet talk. I was pleased to hear it, but figured Gu Qinghuai must be much the same, so I said, your old Gu is an intellectual. I bet he's even more romantic when he turns on the charm, isn't he? But she just shook her head with a frown. Enough already, total nerd, just looking at him annoys me. You have no idea, on our wedding day, his mother tried to put me in my place right from the start, and he didn't say a single word in my defense, and he still thought he could lay a hand on me that night, in his dreams. I was stunned. So you two never. Exactly. Suchi lifted her chin with haughty pride. A woman can only find true joy when her body and soul are in harmony. Otherwise, how are we any different from animals? Little did I know then that she would actually make Gu Qinghuai live like a celibate monk his entire life. It wasn't until Gu Qinghuai passed away from stomach cancer that Suchi finally poured out her grievances to me. I thought she couldn't stand Gu Qinghuai. So why is she acting like I stole her crush? I frowned at Suchi and asked, do you have feelings for Gu Qinghuai? Then what does Wei Hao mean to her? She opened her mouth but remained silent. Now I see what's going on. Oh, so you're upset I beat you to it, no matter who it is. If I'm the one who chose them, you automatically approve, is that it? Her face flushed crimson. You, how dare you? What kind of person do you take me for? Then what did you mean by that remark just now? When she realized she couldn't win the argument, she started acting unreasonable. I don't care. Right now I like Gu Qinghuai, and you need to step aside for me. I let out an exasperated laugh. I'm not your mother. Why should I give in to you? I'd rather let pigs or dogs have their way than allow that ungrateful wretch to mess with Gu Qinghuai again. My refusal to yield an inch had her stomping her feet in frustration. She was about to say more when a cool voice cut through. Even if she were willing to step aside, I wouldn't allow it. Gu Qinghuai turned back and stood under the willow tree, his eyes cold and distant. He looked at Suchi with a sneer. Who do you think you are? How dare you make decisions for me? Are you even worthy? Suchi's face flushed instantly. She gazed at Gu Qinghuai with hurt in her eyes, only to find him completely unmoved. Gu Qinghuai came over and thrust a set of books into my hands. I thought you might have trouble getting them, so I bought the books for you. His considerate gesture caught Suchi's eye, driving her wild with jealousy. She turned her head and looked at me with a pitiful, wounded expression. Chinran, we grew up together like sisters. Why are you trying to steal Professor Gu from me? I truly want to be with Professor Gu. Please, won't you step aside for me? Tears streamed down her face like pear blossoms in the rain, her sorrow palpable. Yet Gu Qinghuai responded with a cold sneer. Are you deaf? I told you, even if she stepped aside, I'd never be into you. His tone dripped with undisguised contempt, making me glance at him instinctively. Strange, shouldn't he barely know Suchi at this point? Lost in thought, I watched Suchi storm off in a huff. He turned back and looked at me. Don't you dare give me up to her, you hear me? I nodded. Okay. I got home with the book, and before I could even put it down, someone slapped the back of my head. You brat. Where did you get the money to buy this book? My mother glared at me furiously. A friend gave it to me. What friend? You're lying to me. Did you steal money from the house? My mother's face turned ashen. Are you out of your mind? That money was for your brother's health. He finally gets 2 days off on the weekend, and I wanted to treat him to a proper meal. How could you just spend it? I've forgotten how chaotic that day was. I only remember feeling unusually embarrassed when Gu Qinghuai saw me bruised and battered the next day. I'm sorry, but my mom returned the books you bought. His expression immediately darkened. Don't worry, I'll pay you back for sure. It's not about the money. He let out a sigh and said nothing. That evening, Gu Gu Qinghuai showed up at my door with several bags of fruit. I have no idea what he discussed with my mother, but after he left, she beamed with joy and told me to start preparing for the wedding. Oh my, I never knew my daughter had such good taste. You actually landed a teacher, Ran. When you're successful, don't you dare forget to look after your little brother. I stayed silent, watching her skip cheerfully into the kitchen. Anyway, I'll be leaving once I get into university. I married Gu Qinghuai. That day he came to propose with nothing but a basket of fruit. The wedding was rushed, but we observed every proper tradition. I sent invitations to both Su Qi and Wei Hao, but neither showed up. While serving tea, my mother-in-law suddenly asked me to kowtow to the ancestors. Remembering the difficulty Su Qi had mentioned, my heart sank. I obediently knocked my head 3 times on the floor, my forehead turning red. This made my mother-in-law laugh. As she rubbed my forehead, she slipped a jade bracelet onto my wrist. Our family has little to offer, but I want you to have this heirloom. Huh, so this is what Su Qi meant by a power move. I stared at the emerald green bracelet, my emotions in turmoil. Gu Qinghuai took my hand and said, if mom's giving it to you, just accept it. After the toasts were made and the guests had left, the house grew quiet. Sitting on the wooden bed, I felt a shyness I hadn't experienced in a long time. It sounds unbelievable, but ever since my unexpected miscarriage, Wei Hao has been reluctant to touch me. On the rare occasions we were intimate, he would always lean against the headboard afterward and smoke for what felt like ages. I only found out after death that my miscarriage was also caused by Su Qi giving me blood-activating herbs. Gu Qinghuai took a shower, changed into pajamas, and came over with a towel to wipe my hands. He had drunk quite a bit, with a flush spreading from his thin lips to the corners of his eyes, carrying a subtly alluring charm. What's wrong? What are you thinking about? Are you afraid of me? I shook my head to dismiss those complicated emotions. Perhaps it's better not to have children, fewer attachments to worry about. I'm more worried about losing control of myself, I replied. Gu Qinghuai smiled and said, go take a bath. I've already heated the water for you. Blushing, I shuffled my way to the bathroom. Midway through my shower, the lights suddenly went out. I let out a yelp and had just stood up when Gu Qinghuai walked in holding a candle. He froze for a moment, and when he spoke, his voice was a bit hoarse. My wife is full of surprises. What followed felt completely natural. His fervent persistence melted me into a puddle. Just as I was nearly overcome with ecstasy, the lights suddenly came back on. Gu Qinghuai's dark, intense eyes were fixed on me as if I were his entire world. In our previous life, I didn't actually meet Gu Qinghuai that often, but I always found him aloof and reserved. Su Qi mentioned that after they got married, he was always tied up with school matters and often ended up staying overnight at his workplace. He climbed the ranks from teacher to professor, and handed over every penny he earned to her. Su Qi would doll herself up, spending her days sipping coffee and shopping, while he went to his grave owning just 2 sets of work clothes, both worn out. The more I thought about it, the more my heart ached with sorrow. Gu Qinghuai noticed my unusual behavior and leaned in to kiss me. Ran, what's wrong? Did I do something to upset you? I held him tighter and said, you're perfect, my love, I promise to cherish you always. He devoured my lips, murmuring something under his breath. When I strained to listen, only a soft sigh remained. Waking up late the next morning was practically inevitable. Blushing crimson, I scrambled out of bed on all fours only to be pulled back into Gu Qinghuai's arms. What are you doing up so early? I was just going to make breakfast. He held me for a little while before finally getting out of bed. You were exhausted last night. Get some more rest. I'll handle breakfast. Seeing the red marks covering his back, I buried my face in my hands and ducked under the covers. Maybe marrying Gu Qinghuai isn't such a bad thing after all. My blissfully sweet life with Gu Qinghuai had almost made me forget about Su Qi. That was, until the day Wei Hao suddenly showed up at my door. Honestly, in both my lifetimes combined, I rarely lost my temper with Wei Hao. In that era, he was a decent husband and a responsible father. Aside from not loving me, he had no real faults, but when he told me face to face to give Gu Qinghuai back to Su Qi, I snapped. The hatred I felt in that moment was almost uncontrollable. What about me? As if finally processing my words, he opened his mouth and stammered after a long pause, I'll marry you. As he spoke, his tone grew more resolute. Get a divorce, and I'll marry you. I let out a bitter laugh. And then what? Then we'll naturally build a life together. Wei Hao added, don't worry, I won't hold your previous marriage against you. If heaven had X-ray vision, it would see the question marks in my mind nearly bursting through my skull. I stared at him in disbelief. Do you really think you're better than Gu Qinghuai? Why should I choose you? He blurted out. You owe this to Su Qi. What? At the mixer, it was clearly Su Qi who had her eye on Mr. Gu. How could you steal him away when you're her best friend? Now Su Qi cries at home every day and has fallen ill. If anything happens to her, you'll be the one to blame. Now I'm convinced these two are seriously messed up. One gets off on taking what belongs to others. The other gets high on playing the martyr. I took a deep breath to keep my anger in check. Get the hell out of here right now before I beat you to a pulp. Wei Hao, you and Su Qi truly deserve each other. You two should be chained together for life. Stop inflicting yourselves on other people, you arrogant piece of work. I was the one who drove Wei Hao out, and he even took a nasty spill while running away. I stood with my arms akimbo at the door, laughing heartily. Being a shrew sure feels good. When I turned my head, I saw Gu Qinghuai standing there with a box of pastries, watching me. Oh no, did he overhear what I just said? I was utterly embarrassed, wondering how to smooth things over. To my surprise, he never brought it up even after we finished dinner. After my shower, I knocked on the study door. Gu Qinghuai was sitting in his chair, lost in thought, and waved me over when he saw me. As I approached, he pulled me into a tight embrace. He buried his face in my chest. Darling, I need to ask you something. What is it? Let's keep this civil. No need to get physical. He nibbled on my earlobe and rasped, digging in the little garden. Dig and dig and dig. My mind was still hazy, wondering how this person could shift gears so abruptly. In a flash of realization, my eyes flew wide open. Gu Qinghuai, he covered my mouth. Keep it down, Mom and Dad are asleep. My heart was pounding so hard I felt nauseous. The romantic atmosphere was replaced by sheer astonishment as I stared at him in disbelief. Don't tell me you're also. He nodded. Yes, I've been reborn. No wonder. No wonder he agreed so quickly when I asked him out that day. No wonder he had that inexplicable hostility towards Su Qi. No wonder he insisted I take the college entrance exams. I was so overwhelmed I nearly cried. That's wonderful. Truly wonderful. The fall from grace of heaven's favored son was like foul air trapped in the throat, each lingering trace a testament to unresolved grievances. Fortunately, Providence intervened and granted Gu Qinghuai a second chance. I nestled into his embrace, slowly wrapping my arms around him. He held me tight, carrying me to the bedroom where we lay down, our bodies fitting together seamlessly. The crook of his arm felt like a sanctuary, radiating a profound sense of security and calm. I closed my eyes and thought for a moment before finally deciding to ask, what exactly happened between you and Su Qi back then? Su Qi had told me plenty of unflattering things about Gu Qinghuai, cold, reticent, socially withdrawn, and with an insufferable air of arrogance. I always thought that was the reason they didn't get along, but Gu Qinghuai told me he was actually tricked into marriage by Su Qi from the very beginning. At first I believed she had feelings for me too. Until our wedding night when she refused to be intimate. She even cried, claiming my mother had insulted her with that bracelet. I tried explaining countless times that my mother meant no offense, but she wouldn't listen. Later, I swallowed my pride and begged her, only for her to deliberately humiliate me in front of others every single time. After being diagnosed with cancer, she finally confessed that she'd regretted our relationship almost immediately. She only stayed because she didn't want to give up the social status that came with being a teacher's wife. She drained the life out of me for a lifetime, and even in death, she wouldn't let me rest. My body wasn't even cold yet when she was already clinging to Wei Hao, sobbing in his arms, the two of them kissing and carrying on. She told him how much she despised me. Said she must have been blind to ever get involved with me, but when I really think about it, wasn't I just as stubborn, wasting my entire life on her? Gu Qinghuai recounted these events as if telling someone else's story, but I could tell he felt just as wronged as I did. I patted his shoulder and said, "You don't need to say any more. I already know. That's exactly why my heart aches even more for him." Gu Qinghuai kissed my forehead and suddenly said, "Actually, that day, I saw what?" I propped myself up as he cupped my chin and covered me with fervent kisses. "I saw how you used your handkerchief to cover the tear in my clothes." In his previous life, Gu Qinghuai succumbed to cancer. Unlike other cancer patients, he appeared as if he'd simply fallen asleep. Just beyond the wall, Su Qi was complaining to someone. "He was such a selfish man, leaving me a widow so young. My life has been nothing but misery." Seeing the holes in the shirt of the man in the coffin, my heart felt heavy and suffocated. This man was exceptional in every way, yet he was cursed with an unhappy marriage and a lonely life. But his wife Su Qi is my best friend. so I couldn't really say anything. I took out the handkerchief I always carry, folded it neatly, and tucked it into his shirt, giving him one last shred of dignity. Remembering that scene, Gu Qinghuai choked up, held me tighter, and deepened the kiss. Overwhelmed with emotion, he even shed tears. Ran, I'm so glad I have you. In this lifetime, let's live our days well together. After holding him for a long while, I teased him, that meme is ancient. Still digging for gold in that old mine. How many years has it been? His face flushed slightly as he scratched his head. My students told me about it. I began devoting myself fully to preparing for the college entrance exams, while Gu Qinghuai also bought textbooks to start learning computer science. The coming decades will be an era of rapid internet development, and we can't afford to miss this opportunity. Amidst the hustle and bustle of life, I heard the news of Suchi and Weihao's marriage. She sent someone to deliver a wedding invitation, asking me to attend the celebration. We've shared a bond for what feels like half a lifetime. I thought we were as close as real sisters. Never imagined we'd end up like this over a man. This time I'm curious to see if she'll actually have a good life after getting her wish to marry Weihao. On the wedding day, she wore a red dress, her face revealing little emotion. Weihao, however, was beaming with joy. Drinking his way from one end of the tables to the other, he stumbled over drunkenly to take Suchi's hand, but she turned away to avoid him. I watched it all unfold, a bittersweet feeling stirring in my chest. We lingered over the meal until past 4. When Gu Qinghuai came to pick me up after his class, he was wearing the new shirt and trousers I'd bought him, looking particularly dashing. I couldn't resist planting 2 kisses on his cheek, the moment I got on the bicycle. My eyes met Suchi's across the way. She also noticed Gu Qinghuai, her eyes lighting up with admiration, but Gu Qinghuai only looked down at me, smiling as he straightened my pant leg before saying, "Let's go." A few days later, Suchi showed up at my door. She apologized to me, though rather awkwardly. Ran, I was wrong. Please don't give me the silent treatment." I stayed quiet but let her come in and sit for a while. After that day, it was as if she'd forgotten our disagreement. Dropping by my place every few days, sometimes when mealtime rolled around, she'd even linger by the doorway. "Is Mr. Gu still at work? He's really putting in the hours, isn't he?" The Mr. Gu she was referring to had been staying late at school to teach evening classes for a week, all to avoid her. I didn't call her out on her little scheme, I just smiled and said, "He's been swamped with work lately, so he's been leaving a bit later." Suchi let out a quiet "oh." Her face falling with disappointment, I looked at her and said, "Weihao should be home soon too, right? Aren't you going back to cook for him?" She pouted and replied, "He can just grab something to eat himself." Coming home all smelly every day and expecting to be waited on hand and foot, in his dreams, I gave a faint smile without responding. Only after seeing her off did Gu Qinghuai dare to return. He furrowed his brow slightly and said, "When are you going to break up with her? I'm stuck at school every day, and I miss you so much." I don't know if it's because he's been holding back for 2 lifetimes, but Gu Qinghuai now is just like a cat that loves to sneak around. Not only is he clingy in private, but his sweet talk is also getting steamier by the day. Sometimes it makes me blush just listening to him. I gave her a playful shove and said with feigned annoyance, "Once I finish my college entrance exams and your certification comes through, let's move the whole family to Beijing. It's better not to cause tension with our neighbors while we're still living here." Gu Qinghuai kissed me and said, "All right, whatever you say, dear." Despite Gu Qinghuai's best efforts to avoid her, Suchi eventually ran into him. On a rare weekend morning, Suchi came knocking at the door. The moment she stepped inside and saw him sitting on the sofa, she immediately blushed and hurried over. "Mr. Gu, what are you doing?" He glanced at me in the kitchen and instinctively shifted away. Suchi, however, paid no mind and sat down right beside him. "Nothing really. I heard you're a teacher. There are some characters in my books I don't recognize. Could you teach me?" She wore a cross-collared dress, her décolletage gleaming pale against the fabric. Gu Qinghuai's gaze smoldered with suppressed anger as he looked at her. He rose to his feet with a cold sneer. "Miss Su, have some self-respect. My wife is right in the kitchen." Watching the resolute departing figure, Suchi's eyes welled up with tears. She gritted her teeth in frustration, then turned and met my icy gaze. Flustered, she instinctively asked, Ran, are you done with your work?" I hummed in response, "If I weren't, I wouldn't have caught this little performance." "What are you talking about? I don't understand any of this." Suchi played dumb, trying to change the subject. Ran, why are there so many books in your house? Do they all belong to Teacher Gu?" "No, they're mine. I'm preparing for the college entrance exams. Just as expected, Suchi's expression shifted slightly. She forced a strained smile. But, why, you're already married, why go through all that trouble? Is Professor Gu treating you poorly? I shrugged. No, it was actually his idea. He said once I pass the exam, he'll try to get me a position at the university. Suchi's face instantly darkened. Deep down, she'd always considered herself superior to me. Deep down, she had to compete with me in everything. Back then I couldn't see it clearly, blinded by our bond. I'd let her win when she wanted to compete, feed her sweet words when she needed praise, always giving way, yet in the end, she still dared to flirt with my husband right before my corpse. Now it makes me wonder, how much of Wei Hao's coldness was actually orchestrated by her. You should have seen how smug she was, knowing my husband remained faithful to her. Suchi, since you're so obsessed with competing, I'll make sure you never measure up to me. She didn't contact me for days after leaving, which worked out perfectly since I could focus entirely on studying. When I visited my parents, I overheard my mom saying Suchi had a huge fight with her husband. Apparently she's insisting on taking the college entrance exams. Wei Hao was just a technician, how could he possibly understand such things? He figured if she wanted to take the exam, she might as well go for it. So he bought her the study materials, but after just 2 days of studying, Suchi was so overwhelmed and dizzy from the material that she picked a fight with Wei Hao, then suddenly slapped him across the head, leaving him with a visible injury. Hearing this, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction, like karma had finally caught up with him, and I became even more absorbed in my book. On the night before the college entrance exam, Suchi suddenly came to see me. She brought a pot of chicken soup, saying she wanted to cheer me on. Ran, I made this especially for you. It's from a 3-year-old hen my mother-in-law raised. It's delicious, you should try some. I eyed the golden, rich-looking soup. I'm not sure I should drink this. Why, are you worried I put something in it? Ha, spoke too soon. I shrugged. Yeah, afraid you might have slipped something in. Suchi was fuming, a flicker of resentment in her eyes that was quickly masked by a smile. After being sisters for over a decade, you still doubt me? That really hurts. If you don't believe me, I'll drink it right in front of you. She poured a bowl and gulped it down in a few swift draughts. Then she poured another bowl and handed it to me, saying, see, now do you believe me? Seeing her ingratiating expression, I allowed a faint smile to curve my lips. I believe you, but, I started to say, only to be interrupted by Gu Qinghuai's voice from behind. Ran, mom's looking for you. Come back quickly. Coming. Without another glance at Suchi's rapidly changing complexion, I bid her a cheerful farewell and turned to follow Gu Qinghuai into the house. The next day, Gu Qinghuai took time off work specifically to accompany me to my exam. When I finished and emerged, he handed me a thermos. Suchi had food poisoning last night and spent the whole evening in the bathroom. She ended up in the hospital. With that kind of intelligence, how did I let her fool me for over 20 years? I looked at him with amusement. Don't worry, you're not the only one who's been taken in by her. My tone made Gu Qinghuai laugh too. He reached out and wiped the corner of my mouth. Yes, we're a couple who've weathered storms together. We've both stumbled over the same hurdle. Let Wei Hao enjoy all that good fortune from now on. We'll just focus on living our best lives. Hand in hand, we ambled home, only to find a big-headed chicken squatting right at our doorstep. Wei Hao, what are you up to? All curled up in the middle of the night, looks downright creepy. When Wei Hao spotted me, emotions churned across his face. He rushed over to hug me but halted 2 steps back upon seeing my hand clasped with Gu Qinghuai's. Why, me? He stared at me intently. Why did you choose him? I was baffled. Obviously because he's handsome and has a great body. No, that's not it. You were supposed to be my wife. He grabbed my hand frantically. Chinran, you should have married me. We were even supposed to have a child together. Have you forgotten? His palm was ice cold, and his grip on me was frighteningly strong. It seems Wei Hao has been reborn too. Seeing how agitated he was, Gu Qinghuai shielded me behind him. Wei Hao, have you lost your mind barging into someone's home at this hour? Let go of my wife. Shut your mouth, she's my wife. We shared 20 years together. I was the one who buried her when she died. Who do you think you are, trying to take her from me? Hearing that, I couldn't hold back any longer and slapped Wei Hao hard across the face. So you do remember I'm your wife? Almost through gritted teeth, I said word by word. Then how come you forgot that when you were all lovey-dovey with Suchi right in front of my corpse? Weren't you 2 soulmates? Didn't you save yourself for her? And you have the nerve to give me the silent treatment. Wei Hao, we've been married for 20 years. don't pretend you don't know how terribly you've treated me. Why did I die? Why did I get lung cancer? Because you were always obsessing over Suchi. Because you smoked in our bedroom every damn day. You gave me this disease. I was only 40, you heartless monster. Memories of past suffering washed over me, making my whole body tremble. This spineless coward emotionally abused me my entire life, and now he dares to confront me with such self-righteousness. Wei Hao, answer me this. If it weren't for Suchi, would I have lost our baby? My verbal assault nearly knocked Wei Hao off his feet. His face cycled through terror, remorse, and anguish before crumbling into silent, heaving sobs. He collapsed to his knees before me with a heavy thud. I'm so sorry, my love. This is all my fault. Please forgive me. I can't live without you. The man before me was clad in grimy work clothes, carrying the faint scent of sweat. Life with Suchi must not have been easy after they got married. Nothing like when he was with me. Hot meals and tea served at his beck and call, living like a king. So is this nostalgia for me, or just a desperate need for a caretaker? Wei Hao himself probably doesn't even know. Gu Qinghuai and I watched him cry with stony faces for a moment before exchanging a look. Gu Qinghuai stepped forward and pried Wei Hao's hands open. He fixed him with an icy glare. If you truly care for Ranran, I'm willing to compete with you fairly, but only when you're a free man. Your wife is still waiting for you at the hospital. Get out of here and take care of her. This public scene is only tarnishing Ranran's reputation. Gu Qinghuai pulled me inside. When we reached a secluded spot, I leaned closer. If Wei Hao gets divorced, would Professor Gu really be willing to give me up? He pinned me against the wall, his lips descending on mine. That was a lie. Don't even think about it, you're mine. When the college entrance exam results were released, I found out I got into a university in Beijing. After discussing with Gu Qinghuai and my in-laws, we decided to sell our house and move the whole family to Beijing. While packing my things, I overheard Suchi telling Wei how she wanted a divorce. This time Wei Hao didn't try to stop her, and they quickly got their divorce papers. In our small town, divorce is a shameful scandal. Everyone's gossiping about who had the affair. During the short time I went out to buy groceries, Suchi slipped into my house. The door was left open because of the move. She went straight up to the second floor, where Gu Qinghuai was organizing his books. He turned around abruptly and was startled to see Suchi lying completely naked on the bed. What are you doing? Are you crazy? Put your clothes on now. Suchi didn't care in the slightest. She rose to her feet and began closing the distance step by step. Darling, I know you've come back too. I was wrong in our past life. I shouldn't have ignored you. She had deliberately put on makeup, styled her hair, and was confident her figure surpassed mine. As she moved step by step toward Gu Qinghuai, her gaze was alluring and seductive. She thought to herself, men are simple, a little sweet-talking, a little charm, and there's nothing that can't be resolved. That's exactly how she'd bewitched Wei Hao in her past life, making him abandon all familial ties to carry on with her right under Chen Ran's nose. Surely this stuffy professor wouldn't be harder to conquer, but she had underestimated Gu Qinghuai's masculine pride and moral compass. With a stern face, he dashed downstairs and ran into the street shouting, "Someone's lost their old sow, it's wandered right into my house." As dusk fell, the workers returned and gathered in small clusters at the entrance, chatting. Hearing this, they all rushed inside, burning with curiosity. Suchi had no time to get dressed properly and was seen completely naked by the men, women, and children present. Just as I returned with the groceries, I happened to hear a scream coming from inside the house. Amid roaring laughter, Suchi dashed out of the room wrapped in a blanket. As she brushed past me, she shot me a venomous glare. I immediately realized what had happened and instinctively looked for Gu Qinghuai, only to find him leaning against the wall with crossed arms, watching me. The crowd of onlookers buzzed with excitement as we gazed at each other from afar. The corners of his thin lips lifted as he silently mouthed, "Come here." I squeezed through the crowd and made my way to his side. The dispersing onlookers behind us were chattering about Suchi's fair legs and enviable figure, but I was completely lost in Gu Qinghuai's tender affection. He took my hand and pressed a triumphant kiss to my lips. "Darling, I've avenged us today, this lovable fool." I smiled and ruffled his hair. Such self-control. Our Professor Gu is truly admirable. Then you'd better reward me properly tonight. Gossip spread like wildfire, and soon the entire town was laughing at Suchi's misfortune. Humiliated by the scandal, Suchi's parents beat her severely behind closed doors. My mother said her father lost control during the beating. The rod scraped across Suchi's face, leaving scars that would likely never fade. I was admitted to a university in Beijing, and Gu Qinghuai got into the same school. I studied literature, while he majored in computer science. After graduation, he stayed on for his PhD, and I joined a promising industry leader in our first year out of college. We bought our first home and moved his parents in with us. With a generous budget, we lived very comfortably in our 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. 2 years later, Gu Qinghuai secured a teaching position at the university, and we managed to save some money. Seizing the opportunity before housing prices soared, we bought a small apartment. During that time, I became pregnant. Since it was a high-risk pregnancy, I decided to take an extended leave and rest at home. My in-laws are accomplished professionals of their generation. Although they're getting on in years, they still hold respected positions in their fields. Not wanting to disturb Gu Qinghuai and me, they moved into the company housing on their own. Gu Qinghuai and I led a simple yet happy life together every day. To make up for the regrets from our past life, I always enjoyed buying him lots of clothes. I'd dress him up handsomely and elegantly. Loving to hear his students praise his distinguished demeanor, Gu Qinghuai neither agreed nor disagreed. He let me have my fun, waiting until I was in high spirits to seize the opportunity and negotiate his own mischievous terms. Both Gu Qinghuai and I had died of cancer in our previous lives, so we made it a habit to get annual checkups. Every time, the results showed we were in perfect health. I knew my lung cancer was caused by secondhand smoke. But I never understood why Gu Qinghuai had developed cancer. It wasn't until a doctor explained to me that the gut is an emotional organ, and prolonged stress can sometimes lead to gastrointestinal diseases. Gu Qing held me in his arms and said that perhaps his stomach was in such good shape because he had been truly happy in this life. But I still put him on a strict diet plan. After 5 years of marriage, our relationship hadn't faded with time, it had only grown stronger. When I was 7 months pregnant, he accompanied me to the hospital for my prenatal checkup. As soon as I stepped into the hall, I heard 2 familiar voices arguing. Not far away, Su Qi, with her heavily pregnant belly, was pointing at the man across from her and yelling at him, "You good for nothing. If you can't even provide for your own wife and child, what kind of man are you?" The scar on her cheek shifted up and down with the movement of her mouth, making it a startling sight. The man roared, "Shut up! If you hadn't pushed me to quit my job and move to Beijing, would I have gotten into that accident and lost my arm? Now I can't find work because of my disability, and you have the nerve to look down on me. I'm telling you, this is all your fault, you jinx." It was Wei Hao after all. Through all the twists and turns, they were still together. Wei Hao was dressed in rags, his face darkened and weathered, with his right sleeve hanging empty, his face twisted with rage as he lunged at Su Qi. "This is all your fault, all of it. I was supposed to have a wonderful wife, a stable career, we'd buy a house and a car, I'd become chief engineer and earn respect in my field. You ruined everything." As people held him back, the overwhelming sense of helplessness finally crushed him. Wei Hao sank to his knees, clutching his head as tears streamed from his eyes, whether from regret or anguish, no one could tell. "Why did you come back to me? Why, even now?" He still thinks Su Qi is the only one to blame for all this. Su Qi's eyes were cold and distant, her tone icy as she spoke. "I knew it, you just can't let go of Chen Ran. If you like her so much, why don't you go find her? Why were you so desperate to be with me in your last life? You're the type who's never satisfied with what you have, always wanting more. You deserve to lose your hand. It's karma, what goes around comes around." As the words faded, our eyes met. This time, instead of confronting me, she turned and went upstairs. Wei Hao knelt on the ground for a long moment before leaving with a numb expression. Gu Qinghuai and I exchanged a glance, tacitly agreeing to pretend nothing had happened. After the prenatal checkup, he held me close as we walked downstairs and said, "Sweetheart, I'm so lucky to have you." "This guy." I chuckled and gave his hand a gentle squeeze. "Darling, you're wonderful too." I could tell we both felt that same sense of unreality after what we'd just witnessed. 2 lonely souls who'd been wronged, now reborn into this life with love and children. How could it not feel like a dream, as if trying to anchor each other, our hands clasped tightly together, the warmth intertwining until our hearts gradually settled into calm. I had just stepped out of the hospital when a loud crash suddenly rang out. "Oh my God. Someone jumped off the building. Quick, quick, get a doctor. This person is bleeding so much. Look, he's missing his left hand." Did life become too unbearable for him? Where are his family members? Oh well, who knows? I caught a glimpse of that familiar brown color in my peripheral vision, but Gu Qinghuai and I both tacitly chose not to turn around. When we reached the parking spot, Gu Qinghuai opened the passenger door for me, he fastened my seatbelt, gave me a kiss, then took a blanket from the side and draped it over my lap. Let's go home, honey. Okay, come on, sweetie, time to go home for dinner. Behind them, one medical worker after another rushed out in their white coats, alive or dead, no one knows. Also brushing past was Su Qi, equally round-bellied, jogging along. The car faded into the distance. In the end, we were never headed the same way. The end. Story 2. When I was 8 years old, I was abducted by human traffickers while trying to save my childhood sweetheart. 10 years later, when I came back, there was a fake daughter by my childhood sweetheart's side who bore a 7-point resemblance to me. She walked into my home openly and hugged my parents affectionately. Later, I caught the fake daughter calling the human traffickers mom and dad and discussing the plan to abduct me again. In a panic, the fake daughter ran me over with a car and killed me, and my childhood sweetheart even helped her cover up the evidence of the crime and threw my body into the sea. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to the time when the human traffickers were about to abduct my childhood sweetheart. I thought carefully. There seemed to be a little boy in the orphanage not far away who looked quite like my childhood sweetheart. One little boy. My foot is sprained, could you please take me to the hospital? Ouch, I can't move, I really can't move. Yan Xiao was warm-hearted. As soon as he heard this voice, he couldn't walk away. Grandma, aren't your family members with you? Can't you walk? Come on, I'll carry you on my back. TSK, look, how willing he is to help others. Whoever saw this scene wouldn't sigh and label Yan Xiao as a good person. But how could such a warm-hearted and handsome young man just stand by and watch me being abducted by human traffickers without doing anything in the previous life? Yan Xiao carried the grandma and walked towards the road. While walking, he turned back and urged me, Ji, hurry up, aren't you coming? At the age of 8, Yan Xiao was still thin and small. He struggled a bit and lifted the grandma up higher on his back. Ed and then stopped. My stomach suddenly hurts a lot. You go first. I'll come to find you later. After saying that, I directly ran in the opposite direction. But since God gave me a chance to start over, how could I miss such a satisfying scene? According to the memories of my previous life, I first ran to a building. The position was just right to see the alley where I was abducted in the previous life. The hospital was not far away, and there were quite a lot of people on the road, but it was already getting dark. It took Yan Xiao a while to walk slowly with the grandma on his back. Grandma, why don't you get down and walk for a while? You're so heavy. The grandma didn't answer but took out a handkerchief from her pocket. In my previous life, when I realized something was wrong, I directly snatched the handkerchief and threw it on the ground, then grabbed Yan Xiao and ran. My actions annoyed the human traffickers hiding in the dark. The other 2 men rushed out instantly to catch us. In the end, he managed to escape, and I became the only victim. This time, I stood by the window in the corridor and coldly watched everything happening below. The handkerchief was put over Yan Xiao's nose, but Yan Xiao reacted quickly and directly threw the grandma off his back. His body swayed twice, holding his head, and with a fierce expression, he said a few words and then tried to run. It seemed that he also realized something was wrong, but it wasn't that easy to run away. 2 men blocked his way. One in front and one behind. They quickly picked him up around the waist. When I faintly heard a few cries for help, I slowly curled up the corners of my lips. Yan Xiao downstairs looked in the direction where I was while struggling. When our eyes met, I smiled and waved at him. Help, Ji, please save me quickly. Save him. I saved him in the previous life, but I died, too. I deliberately wandered outside for an extra hour before going back crying. But my parents didn't care much when they saw me crying. They just said, did you fight with Yan Xiao again? I've told you so many times, a girl should act like a girl. I got tired of listening and started crying even louder with a wow. Dad, Mom, has Yan Xiao come home? I can't find him. At this, my mom was so shocked that her phone fell to the ground. What, weren't you 2 out together? Come with me to the neighbor's house and check right away. My parents pulled me to the Yan family's house in a hurry. As soon as they entered, they asked, is Yan Xiao here? Dear mother-in-law, are you out of your mind? Yan Xiao went out to play with Gigi. Yan Xiao and I grew up together since we were children. We were real childhood sweethearts, so the parents of our 2 families would tease each other and call each other dear in-laws. But seeing me crying so hard that my tonsils were almost showing, his parents also got worried. Gigi, why are you alone? Where's Yan Xiao? I cried and said, he was taking an old grandma to the hospital. I had a stomachache and ran to the bathroom, but later I went to the hospital and looked for him for a long time, but I didn't see him or that grandma. His parents staggered, grabbed their coats, and ran out. My parents followed closely behind. Don't be too anxious. Maybe the child was just having fun and forgot the time. We'll go look for him with you. Don't you know the director of the police station? Call the police and check the surveillance right away. To make the act complete, I deliberately wailed and went home. As soon as I entered the house, I instantly wiped away my tears with a blank expression. This was why I had to stay out for an hour before going home. Both of our families had a bit of money and resources. What if they checked the surveillance and actually rescued Yan Xiao? I had to at least buy the human traffickers some time to leave the city, otherwise, how could I plan what to do next? 3. The desperate and shocked look in Yan Zhao's eyes when he was abducted was exactly the same as mine in the previous life. In the previous life, because of my unexpected appearance, the human traffickers had some difficulty catching the two of us. We desperately ran towards the place with light outside the alley. When we were about to be caught, Yan Xiao pushed me. I fell hard. I desperately begged him to give me a hand. Yan Xiao, pull me up quickly, please. Once we got out of this alley, it was a busy road, and both of us could go home safely. The human traffickers were getting closer and closer. I stretched out my hand to Yan Xiao almost pleadingly, but Yan Xiao looked at behind me, gritted his teeth, and ran away without looking back. Yan Xiao. I was so scared that I started crying and crawled forward with my hands and feet, but in the end, I was pulled back by the leg by the human traffickers. At that time, I naively thought that Yan Xiao would find someone to come back and save me after he ran out, but until I was tortured by those two human traffickers with animal instincts in the alley for over half an hour. Yan Xiao didn't bring anyone back, you little brat, for meddling in other people's business. Originally, we didn't think much of you, you little girl. You had to be talkative, you had to be so cheap. Well, are you satisfied now, at the age of 8? I was in so much pain that I fainted several times. I could only feel the two men slapping me one after another. Yan Xiao, why, obviously, if you had given me a hand, both of us could have run out. Even if you had brought someone back to look for me, I wouldn't have ended up like this. Later, I was sold to a remote mountainous area where nothing grew. I endured hardships for 10 years before I could return home. But when I came back, there was a girl in my family who bore a 7-point resemblance to me out of nowhere. She walked into my home openly and hugged my parents affectionately. Just as I was hesitating to step forward, she looked at me in surprise. Dad, Mom, Brother Xiao, this sister smells so bad. She doesn't have any dirty diseases, does she? She said the most vicious words with an innocent look on her face. Just like that, my parents, who were originally immersed in the joy of getting me back, suddenly changed their attitude towards me, and Yan Xiao loathed me to the extreme. I thought that as long as I was good to them, they would eventually accept me, but unexpectedly, what I heard were their cold voices. If you had died outside, you would have always been the white moonlight in everyone's heart. Why did you come back to disgust us? Later, I caught the fake daughter calling those human traffickers mom and dad and discussing the plan to abduct me again. In a panic, the fake daughter ran me over with a car and killed me. And Yan Xiao even helped her cover up the evidence of the crime and threw my body into the sea. Since he was so heartless, there was nothing wrong with me not saving him when he was in danger. Right, what goes around comes around. In this life, it's his turn to experience the feeling of everyone eyeing you covetously in the mountains. By the way, Yan Xiao is handsome and belongs to the clean and thin type. Those desperate old men like this kind the most. 4. They searched for a whole night before coming back. As soon as they pushed open the door, Yan Zhao's parents grabbed my arm and asked, Gigi, think carefully again. What did the person who asked Yan Xiao to carry her look like? Draw it for Auntie. She pinched my arm and shook me hard. Draw it for me. I was stunned for a moment, then pouted and started crying as if I was scared. I don't remember either. I was in a hurry to go to the bathroom because of my stomachache. Dad, Mom, have you found Yan Xiao? At this moment, the more heartbroken I seemed to be crying, the happier I actually was in my heart. According to the situation in the previous life, Yan Xiao should almost be in the mountains by now. My parents wiped my tears for me, and then looked at Yan Zhao's parents, hesitating to speak. In the end, they still shook their heads. The 4 parents all sat on the sofa with dull eyes. Yan Zhao's parents were like marionettes who had lost their souls. Only when the phone rang each time did their eyes light up a bit. Have you found him? Looking at their sad appearance, a trace of mockery flashed in my eyes. It's just a lost child, it doesn't matter. It will be okay after a while. In the previous life, Yan Xiao found an adopted daughter for my parents. In this life, of course, I will also help his parents get out of their pain. I stroked my chin and thought carefully. There seemed to be a little boy in the orphanage not far away who looked quite like Yan Xiao. When he comes back, there will also be a fake young master in the family who has been raised almost perfectly. They should be happy, right? 5. Half a month passed, and the Yan family used all their connections but still couldn't find Yan Xiao. Yan Zhao's parents were immersed in grief every day and had lost a lot of weight in half a month. I looked heartbroken and went to the neighbor's house to accompany them every day. Uncle, Auntie, I'm sorry, if I hadn't gone to the bathroom, would Yan Xiao not have been lost? If I had known that person was a human trafficker, I would have desperately stopped him from doing good deeds. I deliberately said this to find a topic. Yan Zhao's parents looked at me, opened their mouths, and tears fell before they could say anything. With my persistence, after another week, they finally accepted this fact. Silly child, how could we blame you? It was right that you didn't go. If you had gone, I'm afraid you would also. It's all my fault and your uncle's. We only told him to be willing to help others, but we forgot that there are damned human traffickers in this world. As they said this, the two of them hugged each other and cried again. I had been accompanying them for almost a month, and I was already used to the scene in front of me. When they cried, I would quietly go to the kitchen and make them some simple white porridge. After they finished crying, I would bring it up. Uncle, Auntie, eat something. What if there's news about Yan Xiao? You'll still have a lot to do then. Under my persuasion, they could eat a little. Day after day, I gradually integrated into their family in a subtle way, making them regard me as a confidant and a spiritual support, until the day I deliberately didn't go. And they couldn't wait to come to my house to find me. I knew I had succeeded. After calming down their emotions, I proposed, Uncle, Auntie, how about I accompany you to take a walk in the nearby park? Staying at home all the time will drive people crazy. Okay, Gigi, we'll listen to you. I curled up the corners of my lips and slowly said okay. 6. I accompanied them to wander around the park seemingly aimlessly. Yan Zhao's mother held my hand tightly and told me about Yan Zhao's childhood as we walked. Yan Xiao was born on the same year, month, and day as you, and our houses are next to each other. We've always thought that you two were destined. Gigi, do you know what Yan Zhao's baby item is? I asked as if I was interested. What? A boy as old as Yan Xiao actually has a baby item. A trace of a smile flashed in Yan Zhao's mother's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by that trace of sadness. It's funny to say, his baby item is the saliva towel you used when you were a baby. I don't know how he picked it up. Since then, he has to hug it every night when he sleeps. Yan Xiao likes you the most. I didn't say anything. Does he like me? If he likes me, why didn't he save me when I was in danger in the previous life? If he likes me, why did that fake daughter who came later replace me? Just as I was thinking, Yan Zhao's parents suddenly stopped in their tracks. Yan Xiao. They let go of my hand and ran towards the boy sitting on the bench not far away at the same time. Yan Xiao, why didn't you go home, son? Mom and Dad were so worried about you. Woohoo, Yan Xiao, you're trying to scare us to death, aren't you? The boy who was tightly hugged was at a loss because of their enthusiasm. I nodded at him. This was the purpose of my bringing them to this park. Wang, the boy from the orphanage, he bore an 8-point resemblance to Yan Xiao. With this face and the behaviors and habits of Yan Xiao that I taught him, it was enough for him to live in the Yan family. 7. Yan Zhao's parents were very disappointed when they found out that Wang wasn't Yan Xiao, but I was there. Uncle, Auntie, don't you think this is fate? He really looks like Yan Xiao. However, brother, where do you live? Why haven't I seen you before? Can we play together often in the future? Wang lowered his head and said in a low voice, I'm an orphan from the orphanage. Out of the corner of my eye, Yan Zhao's parents' eyes lit up. I then timely gave them an excuse. Uncle, Auntie, this is simply fate. It's so wonderful. We live so close to the orphanage but have never met him, and Yan Xiao just now. Uncle, Auntie, would you like to? How could they refuse? Desperate people will want to hold on tightly to anything they see. People who look similar to their son are not common. In the end, they still brought Wang back to the Yan family and named him Yan Qing. The next day, Yan Qing came to me. After a long silence, he asked me, why are you helping me so much? How did you know they would definitely take me in? I tried my best to look innocent. Because Uncle and Auntie's original son was abducted by human traffickers. You look so much like him. I hope you study hard and don't let uncle and auntie down. As long as he behaves himself and doesn't cause trouble, he will be a child of the Yen family in the future. By then, his life will change dramatically, just like that of the fake rich daughter. I'm so looking forward to it. I hope time passes quickly. I wonder what expression Yen Xiao will have when he comes back 10 years later and sees someone has taken his place at home. 8. With Yen Qing around, the sadness of Yen Zhao's parents seemed to have a place to go. He was a well-behaved and sensible person. He basically won them over 2 weeks after arriving home. They would even bring Yen Qing to my house for a dinner party. My mom looked at Yen Qing with a smile. This child is so nice. It's a pity he's an orphan. Meeting you guys now is his good fortune. Yen Qing seems to be about the same age as our Gigi. Where did he go to school before? After asking, Uncle and Auntie looked at me. Gigi, Uncle and Auntie actually wanted to talk to you about this today. We want to transfer Yen Qing to your noble school. I'm afraid he won't get used to it just after going there. How about putting him in the same class as you? Please help Auntie take care of him. I agreed without hesitation. Sure, in this way. Wouldn't I have more time to get in touch with Yen Qing? The next day, Yen Qing came to our class. However, this circle is only so big, and almost everyone knows that Yen Qing is the adopted son of the Yen family. Children from wealthy families have always been good at sizing people up. They started to test Yen Qing intentionally or unintentionally, seeing that he hadn't firmly established his position in the Yen family yet. They began to exclude and bully him. I saw all of this but didn't interfere. It was not until a week later that I stepped in when Yen Qing was being bullied. After all, only when he is bullied and then saved will Yen Qing be grateful to me. After school, he was blocked in a corner again. I squeezed in from behind. Then, pretending not to understand their bullying, I said, Yen Qing, why are you still playing here? Didn't Uncle and Auntie sign you up for tutoring classes to study and help them share their worries earlier? Yen Qing blinked and was confused for a moment. Fortunately, he wasn't stupid. He knew I was speaking deliberately for these people and didn't expose me. The others were all stunned. Ah, Gigi, are you kidding? Is the Yen family going to hand over the company to this adopted son? I tilted my head and smiled. Otherwise, what else can they do? Yen Xiao has disappeared. Now Uncle Yen only has this one son. Who else can he give it to if not Yen Qing? The crowd looked at each other and consciously made way for us. See you tomorrow. Yen Qing and I walked side by side, and he remained silent all the way. It was not until we were almost home that he said, thank you today. Before I could say you're welcome, he added, I know you were helping me out. Don't worry, I won't covet what doesn't belong to me. I took so much trouble to bring him in, not to make him so harmless. 9. I stopped and looked back at him. Why not covet it? Yen Qing seemed to be stunned by my question. He opened his mouth but didn't know what to say for a long time. I looked at him seriously. The opportunity is right in front of you. Don't you know how to cherish it? Do you want to be bullied all the time? Yen Qing frowned, and a different emotion flashed in his beautiful eyes. I averted my eyes. He looked so much like Yen Xiao. But I'm an adopted son. Yen Xiao will come back sooner or later. So what if you're an adopted son? I retorted. They don't care whether it's a biological child or an adopted one. What they value most is what's beneficial to the family. Besides, what about feelings? Before I was 8 years old, my parents doted on me alone. They wished they could hold me up to the sky, but when I came back in a sorry state 10 years later, didn't they still stand with the fake rich daughter and abandon me like a worn-out shoe? They disliked that I was dark and thin and couldn't be presented in public. They thought I had completely forgotten all the social etiquette I had learned before and would make them a laughingstock if I was taken out, even at a dinner party with more than 20 people. Just because my chopsticks fell to the ground, my dad told me to get out in public. But Mom and Dad, for the past 10 years, my hands and feet were always tied with ropes. I had to bury my face in the bowl to eat. If I didn't eat, I would starve to death. For me, so-called etiquette was the first thing I abandoned. It was already very difficult for me to come back alive. Feelings will fade. Whether to seize this opportunity is up to you. After saying that, I went home one step ahead. In this life, I will only focus on interests. 10. Probably what I said to Yen Qing worked. He really became more and more like a rich second generation day by day. Whenever he had something he wasn't sure about, he would come to ask me. He no longer cowered in front of anyone. Over the past few years, in addition to learning golf, shooting, equestrianism, and piano, he also learned financial knowledge and business administration thoroughly. he grew into a more outstanding existence than the real Yan Xiao, after he won another project for the Yan family. I waited for him outside the meeting room. As soon as he came out, a bunch of flowers was handed to him again. Congratulations on winning another big deal. Yan Qing held the flowers in one hand and naturally took my bag with the other. Stop teasing me, future female tycoon, let's go home. I smiled and didn't say anything. Over the years, not only has Yan Qing proven himself in various fields, but I'm also not far behind. By the way, the college entrance examination is coming soon. Which university do you want to go to? I answered without hesitation, a university in this city. Yan Qing looked at me. What a coincidence, so do I. Looking at the receding night view outside the window, I slowly curled up the corners of my lips. 10 years are almost over. I have been committed to improving myself. I have gradually taken over the contacts, resources, and family business from my parents. And Uncle Yan has gradually let Yan Qing take over the family business in addition to his studies. Although he is young, he can complete each task excellently. As a result, everyone in the circle knows that the Yan family has found a blessing in disguise and adopted a son who is intelligent and hard-working, coupled with his outstanding appearance and tall figure. This guy even became popular on the internet by accident, although he doesn't plan to make a living in the internet field. He has gained 10 million followers with just a bare account with no content. Calculating the time, Yan Xiao should be coming back soon, but in any case, Yan Qing has more than one way out. Besides, at that time, it's not certain who Yan Zhao's parents will side with. I must stay in this city to watch this big show. 11. On the day the college entrance examination ended, Uncle Yan's family and my parents took us out to celebrate. Everyone was beaming with joy. And there was not a trace of gloom on the faces of Yan Zhao's parents. We didn't go home until the middle of the night. Uncle, Auntie, see you tomorrow. We waved and said goodnight. But as soon as the words were out of our mouths, a sinister voice came from not far away. Who is he? Yan Zhao's parents answered without hesitation, Yan Qing, our son. Under the street lamp, a person in slightly ragged clothes stomped his feet in frustration and roared, if he's your son, then what am I? Everyone was stunned, and the things in Yan Zhao's parents' hands also fell to the ground. My parents looked at each other, and the hands that were about to open the door silently retracted. Only I couldn't help laughing. I've been waiting for so long. He's finally back. When I saw the girl next to him, my hand hanging by my side suddenly clenched tightly. And Yuan, the adopted daughter of my parents in the previous life. She was afraid that her status would be in danger because I came back home. So she framed me several times and finally ran me over and killed me. The fake rich daughter. I would recognize her even if she turned to ashes. Yan Xiao rushed forward like crazy and looked at Yan Qing. He roared loudly and questioned, I was lost, not dead. Do you have me, your son, in your hearts at all? I ate pig excrement in that god-forsaken place, while you were having fun at home and even found someone to replace me. Yan Zhao's parents were so stunned that they didn't come to their senses. Actually, it's no wonder they were like this. Yan Xiao looked completely different now. His hair was greasy and stuck together. There was a scar on his dark face. His neck was dirty, and obvious dirt could be seen, looking like a black wheel. Speak, say something. I'm back. I'm the child of this family. Tell this guy to get out. As he said this, Yan Xiao started to push and shove Yan Qing. At this time, Yan Zhao's parents finally reacted. They subconsciously blocked Yan Qing behind them. Shower, why are you back? Yan Xiao laughed out of anger with red eyes. Shouldn't I come back? Fine, then I'll leave. At this moment, Xiaoen, who had been silent all this time, pulled Yan Zhao's arm. Uncle, Auntie, Yan Xiao has suffered a lot of grievances in the years since he was abducted. It's understandable that he's sad to see this scene when he comes home. Just look at the scars on his body to know how hard his life has been. There were scars all over Yan Zhao's belly and back. I knew exactly where these scars came from. They were nothing more than from being whipped. If he didn't listen, he was beaten. If he resisted, he was beaten. If he tried to escape, he was beaten even harder. Yan Zhao's mother's tears fell instantly. She wanted to hug Yan Xiao, but the hand she stretched out never landed. It's good that you're back. Let's go home first. You go take a bath and feel comfortable. By the way, look at Gigi. You two haven't seen each other for a full 10 years. Gigi has become more and more beautiful. Before she could finish speaking, Yan Xiao rushed towards me with gritted teeth. 12. I deliberately didn't dodge, but Yan Qing hugged me and dodged Yan Zhao's attack. And Ji, you such a bitch also deserve to live in this world. You die for me. I'm going to kill you." Everyone was frightened by his appearance. I also pretended to be pitiful and innocent, shivering and hiding behind my parents. "Yan Xiao, why are you saying such vicious words to me as soon as you come back?" Of course I knew why. Back then, I also watched him being taken away. Yan Xiao pointed at my nose and cursed at me, saying that I would come to no good end, that I was worse than a pig or a dog, saying that he was abducted because of me. I didn't defend myself at all. I just looked at him with a stunned and hurt expression throughout. Just like no one believed me in the previous life, now no one believes him either. During the time he was away, I was almost like half a daughter of the Yan family, who would believe his nonsense. Sure enough, seeing that he couldn't persuade Yan Xiao, Yan Zhao's father kicked over the trash can next to him and then pointed at him and scolded loudly, "Stop going crazy here." At that time, we checked the surveillance. "You were stupid enough to be deceived. What does it have to do with Gigi? Go home quickly." Yan Xiao still wanted to say something, but his father added, "If you don't go home, get out. From now on, I'll pretend I don't have a son like you." Finally, Xiaoen gently touched Yan Zhao's arm. Only then did he relent. "Fine, I'll go home, but this is Xiaoen, my girlfriend, she has to stay at home with me." Only then did this farce end, but before entering the door, Xiaoen looked back at me. The hatred in her eyes made me confused. If anyone should hate, it should only be me hating her. Could it be that she was also reborn? 13. The next day, Yan Qing and I made an appointment to prepare for the relevant matters of the art exhibition. After thinking for a while, I deliberately went to the neighbor's house. "Uncle, Auntie, how is Yan Xiao?" As soon as Yan Xiao, who was having a meal, heard my voice, he slammed his chopsticks on the ground. "Dad, I said last night that from now on, we should draw a clear line from the neighbors." Yan Zhao's father looked at him helplessly, and his mother quickly got up and pulled me in. "Don't listen to his nonsense. He just came back and is stimulated." "Who's stimulated?" Yan Xiao slapped the table and stood up. He walked 2 steps to me. In the previous life, he grew to about 185 centimeters, very tall, but this time, probably due to malnutrition, I could be as tall as him wearing high-heeled shoes. "And Aiji, stop acting in our house, get out now." Yan Zhao's parents were about to stop him, and the fake rich daughter in the previous life, that is, Xiaoen in this life, stopped them first. "Uncle, Auntie, let's listen to what Yan Xiao has to say." "And Aiji, I really don't know where I offended you. Do you know what kind of life I've been living these years?" "Those beasts," probably thinking of something sad. Yan Zhao's lips began to tremble halfway through his words. "But now I'm back. This is my home, not your home with that pretty boy. I'm the biological son of the Yan family and the heir to the Yan family's business. None of you are allowed to covet my things." I looked at Yan Zhao's parents and then, like coaxing a child, nodded along with his words. Okay, you're right. "Yan Qing, it's getting late, let's set off first." "Where are you going?" Yan Xiao blocked our way. I deliberately looked at Yan Qing with admiration. "To the launch event of the project that Yan Qing and I participated in together. By the way, didn't you also like to accompany Uncle and Auntie to these activities before? Do you want to go with us this time?" Yan Zhao's face instantly turned red with anger. "Oh, right, I forgot. Even with the best platform, after being away for 10 years, it's very difficult to come back." I smiled and waved to Yan Zhao's parents. "Uncle, Auntie, we're leaving." 14. After going out, Xiaoen actually followed me. Yan Qing went to wait for me in the car first, while Xiaoen began to test me. "I heard that you and Yan Xiao were childhood sweethearts. Were you there when he was abducted back then? Why did you manage to escape successfully?" Looking at her pretended innocent appearance, I covered my nose and took a half step back. "It stinks. Did you not wash yourself clean when you took a bath last night? There's a fishy smell. You don't have some dirty disease, do you?" These were the words she said to me when we first met in the previous life. We stared at each other, and the hatred that we no longer concealed burst out from the bottom of our eyes. "Sure enough, you, this bitch, were also reborn." I chuckled twice. "This is what you call the mercy of heaven. He specifically let me come back to deal with you 2 murderers." Xiaoen looked at me with a cold smile on her lips. "So what if you were reborn? You're still going to be my loser, in this life. I'll crush you with a car and then throw you into the gutter to feed the stinking fish and shrimp. At that time, your parents will still regard me as their daughter." I looked at her sideways and suddenly laughed. Did she think I had done nothing in these 10 years? Now, it's probably not that I can't do without them, but that they can't do without me. "What are you laughing at?" I scanned her up and down and said lightly, I just think that without my family's money spent on you. You really look very ordinary. Guess what Yan Xiao would do to you if he knew that the human traffickers were your parents? Her pupils suddenly shrank in fright, and I left with my head held high and got into the Mercedes-Benz not far away. Yan Qing handed me a bottle of water. You seem to really hate those two. Yes, I didn't hide it. If you still want to stay here, you have to be as hostile to them as I am. After waiting for so many years, wasn't this what I was waiting for? Yan Qing looked ahead and started the car, saying softly, okay, 15, there wasn't actually much to do at the launch event. I used this as an excuse just to deliberately provoke them. After we were almost done with our work, Yan Qing and I found a coffee shop and sat down. Just as we were sitting there, I saw a car from the Yan family drive by on the roadside. Could that be Yan Xiao? Follow and see. The car stopped at the entrance of the hospital. It was indeed Yan Xiao. And he didn't bring Xiao En with him. He was acting very secretively, and as soon as he entered the door, he went straight to the proctology department. Yan Qing was puzzled. What is he doing here? I smiled meaningfully. It couldn't be that he came to the hospital alone to see a hemorrhoid problem, right? It seemed that Yan Xiao had experienced a lot these years. Yan Xiao stayed in the proctology department for a whole day. Before leaving, he kept shouting that he had something to do and couldn't be hospitalized. After he left, I asked Yan Qing to use his face, which was similar to Yan Zhao's, to deceive the doctor. What's going on? Yan Qing's expression was a bit complicated. Speak, what on earth is going on? Yan Qing took out a photo and showed it to me. It was an X-ray film that Yan Xiao had just taken. There was actually a round light bulb and a beer bottle in his abdominal cavity. Even though I was mentally prepared, I was still stunned. Goodness, his experience was much richer than mine in the previous life. 16. A few days later was Yan Qing's 18th birthday. Although the atmosphere in the Yan family was a bit awkward these days, Yan Zhao's parents were still carefully preparing his coming-of-age ceremony. Yan Xiao had been causing trouble. When I came home, you didn't even hold a banquet to welcome me. Now, for just an adopted son's 18th birthday, you're making such an exaggerated coming-of-age ceremony for him. Mom and Dad, are you getting senile? I'm your biological son. I stood aside, looking innocent, and said, but brother Yan Qing has not only won various competitions but also participated in company projects early, bringing a lot of honor to the family. And this birthday party is not just for him. Many people will come. Isn't an adult's party just a business field? Yan Zhao's parents looked at me and Yan Qing approvingly. But when their eyes fell on Yan Xiao, they sighed imperceptibly again. Your dad and I have told you many times, control your hostility a little. We will hold a banquet for you soon and arrange for you to go abroad to study and further your education. Your girlfriend can also. Before she could finish speaking, Yan Xiao stood up again with a whoosh. What do you mean? You want to send me away and then hand over the company to this pretty boy? I'm telling you, it's impossible. The family's property must be mine, otherwise, even if I destroy it, I won't let you give it to an outsider. If I can't live well, no one else should either. When I was suffering outside, did anyone think about me? No, you're here raising someone else's son and thinking you're enjoying family happiness. How stupid. What a stupid thing to do. Hearing this, Yan Zhao's father finally couldn't bear it anymore. He threw the teacup in his hand to the ground. If you keep spouting such nonsense, get out of here and go back where you came from. Yan Xiao was so angry that his whole body was shaking. Finally, Xiao En pulled him out. After comforting Yan Zhao's father, I went home. Just then, I happened to see those two arguing on the road. With such a good opportunity, how could I not go over and annoy them? Are you angry already, Yan Xiao? I'm not saying this to be mean, but you're really becoming more and more narrow-minded. Yan Xiao still wanted to attack me, while Xiao En stood aside and watched coldly. I stood still and didn't dodge, only saying, if you hit me, the shares of the Yan family will all belong to Yan Qing. What do you mean? I looked at them with a smile. You don't know this, but Yan Qing is really outstanding. He has also been in this family for 10 years. Uncle and auntie have already signed a document to give him 10% of the shares, which will take effect on his 18th birthday. That was the first time I saw someone actually so angry that their eyes seemed to be on fire. After the 18-year-old coming-of-age ceremony, Yan Qing will be a proper shareholder. Yan Xiao gritted his teeth. This is simply outrageous. 17. Many people came to the coming-of-age ceremony. As the protagonist of the day, Yan Qing was shining brightly. He chatted with the guests along with Yan Zhao's parents. After 10 years of edification, He was already very proficient in such occasions. Just as he was cutting the cake, Yan Xiao suddenly opened a bottle of champagne and sprayed it at Yan Qing on the stage. The champagne splashed equally on everyone, causing exclamations at the scene. Yan Qing's carefully groomed hair got wet and stuck to his forehead, and a few drops of champagne flowed down his cheeks. Yan Zhao's parents were also startled. But it was too late to stop it. Why are you celebrating this outsider's birthday? Why are you introducing him to so many people? Yan Xiao shouted from behind, still not satisfied. He went up on stage and tore off the microphone. Open your eyes and see clearly. I'm the proper heir of this family. That fake, I'll kill him sooner or later. Before he could continue going crazy, Yan Zhao's father rushed up directly and slapped him. Shut up, I'm sorry, everyone. Yan Xiao has a problem with his mind, he's crazy. Ah, Yan Xiao, how dare you hit your father? The father and son started fighting in public, scaring the guests away. I helped Yan Qing wipe the wine stains on his face. This is the best birthday present I gave you. In the future, Yan Qing would no longer have any threats. The corners of Yan Qing's lips curled up. Just as he was about to answer me, he frowned again. He quickly pulled me behind him and then kicked out. Only then did I know that Xiaoan was rushing towards me with a knife. She was kicked to the ground and still shouted unconvinced. Again. Yan Qing frowned. Is she crazy? Of course I knew what again meant. Unfortunately, she would never have another chance in this life. 18. Yan Zhao's father and Yan Xiao completely broke up. They severed their father-son relationship, and Yan Xiao was kicked out of the house. At the same time, I found a reporter to expose Yan Zhao's X-ray film. Instantly, the topic about Yan Xiao became extremely popular. The whole network. No, I'm just curious how this guy can still fight with foreign objects in his body. But guy, no, I just slipped in the bath and accidentally sat on them. He might really be crazy. The overwhelming negative comments could quickly drown a person. A few days later, I received a text message from Yan Xiao. The old place, dare you come? I thought for a long time before I remembered where the old place he mentioned was. That night, I went to the appointment gladly, but I was well prepared when that car rushed towards me again. Before it even reached me, 2 tires burst and it crashed into the big tree next to it. I looked coldly at them, who were all injured. Do you think I would fall in the same place twice? There was a cut on Yan Zhao's head, and blood covered his face. He glared at me viciously. Why on earth are you treating me like this? I smiled. I'm just treating you the way you treated me. Vaguely, I smelled the smell of gasoline. Looking at the gasoline gradually flowing on the ground, I got to the point. You've been staying in a place called Huangdegutan all these years and couldn't run away, right? A trace of surprise flashed in Yan Zhao's eyes. How do you know? I curled my lips. I also know that the girlfriend next to you, her parents are human traffickers. Yan Xiao didn't believe it. I smiled and threw over a video. It was Xiaoan affectionately calling the human traffickers mom and dad and giving them a lot of ideas to abuse Yan Xiao. As for how I got this video, of course, after I was reborn, I sent someone to secretly install a hidden camera in the human trafficker's house early. Xiaoan also saw the content of the video and screamed, shaking her head, no. But Yan Xiao was furious. I'll kill you, you bitch. I turned around and walked away quickly. Let the fire wash over these 2 scumbags. 19. After learning of Yan Zhao's death, Yan Zhao's parents were not as sad as expected. Instead, they seemed to be relieved. However, Yan Zhao's father was also beaten badly, coupled with the psychological blow. He seemed to have aged 10 years. Yan Qing also smoothly became the only heir. My parents were watching TV at home and sighing about the series of things that happened in the Yan family. Is there some saying in their family, so many things have happened recently, to be honest, they should find someone to get rid of the bad luck. My stomach suddenly hurts a lot. You go first, I'll come to find you later. You. When I met my parents' eyes, I took out 2 plane tickets and then said slowly, the elders of the neighbor's family have all stepped down. You too should also go abroad to enjoy your old age. Nige. Do you think you've grown too big for your britches? I stood up with a smile and then shook the small medicine bottle in my hand. Dad, your heart hasn't been feeling well recently. The special medicine is all from me. In fact, there was no special medicine, it was just vitamins. He thought it was effective only because on the day he took the medicine, I didn't drug him. My dad was immediately caught by the throat. He slumped back on the sofa. Okay. The child has grown up and started to plot to seize power. Hee. I went straight upstairs. In the previous life, they alienated me after listening to the instigation of the fake rich daughter. Letting them go abroad to retire was already my kindness. The next morning, when I went out to the company, I happened to meet Yan Qing, who was about to leave. At the door, he raised his chin at me. "Let's go." I curled my lips and got into his car. "Let's go. Our battlefield has just begun." Story 2. The day my brother died, his dropout notice also arrived at our home. My mother suffered a sudden heart attack, and my father was involved in a car accident on his way back. Meanwhile, Wenru, my brother's infatuated admirer, was carelessly boasting in a bar about a drama where two men fought over her, carrying a fruit knife. I rushed into the bar, and the moment I stabbed at Wenru, time reversed. I returned to my second year of high school, back when my brother was still the top student and the cool, handsome guy everyone admired. Nothing had yet happened, it was just a moment of dizziness. The chaotic noise of the bar turned into the sound of the school bell. My body still held the posture of wielding a knife, but what I had in my hand was a black pen, which was now poking into another student's uniform. It was Zhou Ji, the acknowledged bully of the school and one of Wenru's many admirers. On the day of the incident, for Wenru, he and a group of people cornered my brother in an alley and beat him. Eventually, my brother died from stab wounds inflicted by one of the thugs. The forensic report stated he was stabbed through the chest. Zhou Ji simply said afterward, "I didn't know he would bring a knife," and as the son of a high-ranking official, he managed to clear his name completely. He glanced down at the pen cap sticking into his uniform and then back at me. His expression unreadable. Just coldly, he asked, "What's the matter?" The images of my brother's body, my mother's cries, and my father, whom I never got to see one last time, pounded at my temples. I stared at him fiercely, struggling to keep my trembling hands under control to avoid lunging forward and strangling him. Zhou Ji's brows furrowed. He was about to say something more when the teacher's reprimand quieted everyone down. "What's the commotion at the back? Class is starting." As if awakening from a dream, I looked around and instantly saw, standing next to the teacher on the podium, a girl. "Zhou Ji, Jiang Yan, return to your seats. Let me introduce to everyone, the new student who transferred to our class this semester, Wenru." I walked back to my seat like a zombie, noticing the many gazes fixed on Wenru. She was pale, slim, and her features were exquisitely beautiful. The sunlight streaming onto the podium elongated her elegant figure. With a smile on her lips and a slight glint in her eyes, she completed her introduction and was directed by the teacher to the empty seat next to me. It wasn't until she methodically performed the actions I remembered from my memories, walking towards me under everyone's gaze and cheerfully saying hello, that I truly believed I had traveled back in time, back to the start of my second year in high school. The time when Wenru transferred to our school, marking the beginning of all misfortunes. In the days to come, she would be revered as the school beauty for her enviable looks and her gentle demeanor, entangling herself with my brother and winning a place in his heart. From being the unattainable dream of many boys, she became the deep mark on my brother, Jiang Heng, and my brother, who lay in a pool of blood, became her proudest trophy, the one who fell from grace for her, descended from the pedestal for her, and ultimately died for her. Compared to my initial admiration and joy when I first met her, this time, I merely glanced at her, holding my head up, looking into her eyes. I gave a half-smile. "Please guide me well." Indeed, it was time to guide her properly. In the classroom, Wenru was fiddling with her bangs using a palm-sized mirror, while I stared out the window, lost in thought. I was originally the type of student who immersed myself in my studies, oblivious to everything else. Even though Jiang Heng's grades were excellent, I always left him behind. Returning to my second year, I only needed a glance to reinforce what the teacher was explaining. For that reason, when I first learned that Jiang Heng had started dating, I was merely curious and gossiped a bit without making a big deal out of it. After all, it was the typical pairing of the most attractive boy and girl at school, which was hardly controversial. Even when he picked up smoking and drinking from Wenru and his grades began to decline, I inwardly scoffed at the idea of love turning someone's brain to mush, thinking it would not end well. Prophetically, Jiang Heng died. On our 18th birthday, my mother mentioned that he was born just a minute before I was. That day, he made his last phone call to me. He said he had waited in line for an hour to buy my favorite Kolomi series cupcake. By the time I arrived at the scene, Jiang Heng's body had already been taken away. In that alley, apart from the toppled cupcake, there was also a bunch of Star of Bethlehem flowers, trampled and dirty. Those were my favorite flowers. In this world, Countless people are dizzy with love, some confused, some mad, but it shouldn't lead to death, and it definitely should not have been my brother. Fate has given me a chance to start over. To change the fragmented fate of my family, I want to pull my brother Jianheng back from the abyss. Back to his vibrant and flourishing 18-year-old self. When the class bell rang, people crowded around Wenru and me at our desk, all there to curry favor with her. I was squeezed between Wenru and her adoring fans. Zhou Ji, in particular, leaned over my desk, reached across me to tap on Wenru's desk, and said in what he thought was a cool, casual manner, "Shall we have lunch together?" I couldn't help but roll my eyes at his slickness, silently cursing idiot in my heart. The next second, Zhou Ji's cold gaze landed on my face. I didn't bother to ponder what he thought after seeing my eye roll, nor did I care if I had offended him. I had more important things to do. I stood up, forcefully made my way through the crowd, and headed towards the neighboring class where Jianheng was. Standing at the doorway of class 1, I constantly shifted my gaze searching for Jianheng. Suddenly, a familiar, cool voice came from behind me. "Looking for me?" Turning around, I saw Jianheng holding a water bottle, lazily raising an eyebrow. I had never looked at him so intently before. This Jianheng was alive, his short-sleeved school uniform wrapped tightly around his growing frame, the top 2 buttons neatly fastened, leading up to his prominent Adam's apple and sharp jawline, his silhouette cast by the sunlight completely enveloping me. Seeing that I remained silent, he frowned and waved his hand in front of my face. "What's wrong?" My eyes watered, and I quickly rubbed them before looking up again, tears streaming down my face. "Brother." I suppressed the urge to hug him, opened my mouth, but my throat was so tight I couldn't speak. Jianheng, shocked, hesitated for a moment before wiping my tears away with his cool fingertips. He then changed to a gentle, serious tone. "Tell me, what happened?" I grinned, an uglier expression than crying, and managed to choke out, "It's nothing, let's go home early tonight. I miss Mom and Dad." Jianheng laughed. "What are you, in kindergarten? You still haven't grown up." Then, he put one arm around me comfortingly. "All right, we'll leave right after school." After making sure there was nothing unusual with Jianheng, I felt a huge relief and briefly spoke with him before turning to head back to class. However, as I turned around, Wenru came up with a smile. "Deskmate, I was actually hoping you could accompany me to the office." She hung on to my arm affectionately, winking at Jianheng behind me. "Is this your boyfriend? He's so handsome. Can you bring me along to play next time?" I glanced back at Jianheng. He frowned and looked at me with a puzzled expression, clearly shocked by the term boyfriend. I gave him a smile, turned my head, and said expressionlessly to Wenru, "No, you can't. My brother doesn't like girls who are too overpowering." As soon as I finished speaking, Wenru's expression turned as if she was constipated. She bowed her head almost imperceptibly and sniffed herself to check for any odd smells. After confirming that there was no strange odor on her, she curled her lips. Her expression cooled, but her words still showed a hint of weakness. "Jian Yan, today is my first day at this school, and I hope we can get along well. If I have offended you in any way, please tell me directly instead of attacking me for no reason." Her expression was sincere, her words polite, and her demeanor neither servile nor overbearing, like a delicate white lotus shivering in the cold wind but still standing firm. I mimicked her demeanor with a sincere face and said, "Ah, what did I attack you for? You really do have a strong scent." I even winked at Jianheng. "Brother, didn't you smell it?" Caught off guard, Jianheng glanced at me helplessly and played along. It does seem a bit, right? It's exactly like the scent of the aged green tea we have in the corner of our home." I looked at her with a grin. Wenru's face turned extremely ugly, tears even welled up in her eyes, and the light in her eyes when she looked at Jianheng faded. Her cheeks flushed. She turned around and rushed back into the classroom. Watching her retreating figure, I snorted coldly, unexpectedly receiving a light knock on the head from Jianheng. He looked at me with a slightly critical expression, asking, "Why are you being so harsh with the new girl?" I took his words as instinctively protecting Wenru. Flashbacks of previous incidents triggered a wave of disgust in my mind, and my tone grew harsher. "What's the matter?" Feeling pity for her. "Then why did you just play along with me? If you feel sorry, go comfort her." Jianheng's face showed surprise and confusion once again. After a moment, his expression darkened, and his voice lowered. "You're acting strange today. That girl's perfume was indeed a bit pungent. I was just stating the truth. If you feel wronged, tell me, but if you keep lashing out for no reason, then suit yourself." After speaking, Jianheng turned to head back to class. Adjusting my breathing, Just before the bell rang, I called out to his retreating figure, "I just don't like her, and if you end up liking her, then you are not my brother anymore." I returned to the classroom, dispirited. Since I can remember, Jianheng and I rarely had such confrontational conversations. I was also aware that attacking Wenru relentlessly in front of Jianheng was not the best strategy, especially since I was the only one who could see the whole picture. Originally, it was I who had pushed Wenru towards Jianheng. When she first asked if she could join us in the future, I didn't hesitate to welcome her. From then on, she joined us for school, lunch, and day after day. The way Wenru looked at my brother grew stickier. She even started handling love letters from other girls for him, reading them to him in a sugary voice, watching his ears turn red, and occasionally saying something subtly flirtatious. Their outings on weekends became more frequent, and my brother's academic ranking started to slip, while I devoted myself entirely to my studies, thinking, let them be, as long as I performed well, the rewards from my parents would be greater. Back then, how could I have imagined this outcome? The bell for class rang. It was time for physical education, and the classroom was slowly emptying. I was about to grab a test paper and head to the sports field when I noticed someone sitting at my desk. Zhou Ji was idly flipping through my test paper, oblivious to my approach until I was right in front of him, and still, he didn't even lift his head. I reached out, pulled the test paper from his hands, and uttered coldly, "Stand up." Only then did Zhou Ji look up at me, his eyes filled with mockery. The top student, so aloof. I ignored him and repeated, "Stand up." Zhou Ji, now even less inclined to get up, leaned back, pressing against my backpack and laughed heartily. "I heard you're quite capable," even made the new student cry. "Is this how you want to get my attention?" I watched him silently for 2 seconds and then smiled. Yes, I actually enjoy seeing her cry. And even more when her sycophants start snapping at others in haste. Is there a kind of thrill in watching lowly creatures? Zhou Ji's expression suddenly turned cold as frost covered his face. He stood up abruptly, gripping my chin tightly, his hand exerting force. He stared at me, sizing me up with a strange look, and then, with a complex smile, he said, "Jian Nian, it seems we weren't close enough before. I think, from now on, we should really get to know each other better." The next second, his hand was sliced by the utility knife I had grabbed from the table, causing him to release his grip in pain. I pushed him hard, making him fall back onto the chair, and looked down at him. "Sorry, I don't deal with idiots." Then, I picked up the test paper, took a pen from my pocket, and walked away. During the physical education class, I could feel Zhou Ji's sincerity in wanting to get to know me anew. Despite his injured hand, he was still imposing on the basketball court. Ignoring his occasional cold glares, I focused solely on figuring out the solution to the last and most challenging problem on the test paper. However, the basketballs frequently flying my way forced me to pay attention to the court. The last time, after scanning my surroundings, I subtly adjusted my position under the guise of tying my shoelaces. Zhou Ji's basketball flew towards me in a perfect parabolic trajectory, which I narrowly dodged by tilting my head. The next moment, a dull thud of the basketball hitting flesh, followed by a piercing scream, came from behind me. Several small groups of girls rushed to the source behind me, while the boys halted their running to look in my direction. The source of the scream, Wenru, was now holding her face, sobbing quietly. Almost the entire class gathered around, busy comforting the injured delicate flower. Only Zhou Ji stood a few steps away from the crowd, silently watching me. Seeing that I was also looking at him, he moved his lips, clearly forming the words, "Intentional." The girls had already started to vehemently take Wenru's side. Which idiot threw the basketball? To fly this far is insane, should try for the NBA with that skill. It was definitely Zhou Ji. I saw him deliberately throw the basketball this way. Meanwhile, the boys, still somewhat defensive of their big brother, deliberately changed the subject. "Let's not talk about that now, let's get Wenru to the nurse's office. It was all just an accident." Zhou Ji, arms crossed over his chest and clearly looking upset, glanced at me with an ambiguous expression, then stepped forward to Wenru and said in a somewhat stiff voice, "I'll take you to the nurse's office." With her eyelashes still red from crying, Wenru gave a pitiful smile, looking very distressed. "No need, Zhou Ji. I believe it wasn't intentional. It doesn't hurt that much. Let's not blame him. Was that really not intentional? Can't you even say sorry?" "Exactly. Just a moment ago he was sweet-talking someone else, and now he's putting on airs." The phrase "it wasn't intentional" ignited a flurry of gossip among the girls. each remark hitting Zhou like a stab in the spine. Finally, a furious shut up from Zhou silenced everyone in the room. When Ru, startled, widened her eyes, not understanding his reaction, Zhou, cold as ice, simply ignored when Ru bent down to pick up the basketball from the ground and turned back to the court, followed by most of the boys. Seeing when Ru's disappointed expression and the fleeting shadow in her eyes, I couldn't help but sneer internally. She thought she was being clever by positioning herself as humble, hoping to evoke Zhou guilt and craft a perfect image of an innocent damsel to win favor. Little did she know, with Zhou personality, arrogant and dismissive, he would only apologize if he genuinely wanted to. Being morally coerced into apologizing was not something he would willingly do. His kindness towards women was merely an instinctive behavior of a male. If pushed into a corner, he would only grow tired and rebellious, just a typical proud and stubborn man. When Ru, failing to receive the apology and affection from Zhou, decided not to pretend anymore, she swiftly stood up, appearing unbothered, and stared thoughtfully in Zhou's direction, pondering something. After school, as I was packing my bag, Jianheng was already waiting at the door of our class. He leaned casually at the door, attracting attention from many. Despite his cool demeanor, Jianheng didn't possess a domineering aura. He relaxed his brows, smiled softly, and waved at me to come over. I slung my backpack over one shoulder and took one last glance at Wenru's empty seat before heading out. Outside, Jianheng seemed in no rush to leave, leaning against the door and looking at me with feigned indifference. "What's up? Aren't we leaving?" I urged. "I'm waiting for my sister." "Who are you?" he replied casually, still dwelling on our conversation from the morning. Realizing this, I nodded, turned, and said, "Then I'll go find my brother. Bye." That finally made Jianheng drop his act and follow me, taking my backpack from my shoulder to carry it himself. Then he slung his arm roughly around my neck, pulling me close into a tight embrace. His voice carried a hint of anger. "So you're having issues with others, and you don't need your brother anymore. I don't even know that girl, and you're making up stories about me liking her." My heart sank slightly, taken aback. I had always feared that Jianheng in this timeline would repeat past mistakes, but I had overlooked his inherently aloof nature. Hesitantly, I asked, "So, what did you think of her when you saw her?" He seemed even more exasperated but answered obligingly, "Just an ordinary girl." His expression was sincere, showing no deceit. Wenru was far from ordinary, but Jianheng was never one to judge by appearances, having been approached by many women, including beauties, throughout his life. His calling someone ordinary meant that, for now, Wenru had made no significant impression on him. Relieved by his response, I relaxed completely, linking his arm. We hopped down the stairs just like we used to when we were kids, playful and carefree. Jianheng's anger subsided as we moved together, a moment reminiscent of simpler times. He teased me for being childish with a smile. However, as I was hopping around, I accidentally bumped into someone. Zhou, holding a basketball in one hand and sweating slightly, stood in front of me. Apparently just after playing a game, he looked expressionlessly at Jianheng, then glanced at my hand intertwined with Jianheng's arm and said with a smirk, "Playing house, are you?" I instinctively tried to step in front of Jianheng, but he shielded me behind him instead. Jianheng smiled lightly and calmly said to him, "Sorry, classmate." He then tried to walk past Zhou with me, but Zhou reached out to block me, his tone icy. "Aren't you going to apologize?" On the back of his hand was a glaring wound, the very one I had inflicted that morning. Jianheng frowned, about to say something, but I spoke first with a sweet smile. "I'm sorry, brother Zhou." Zhou was taken aback, seemingly not expecting me to be so docile. A hint of mockery flashed in my eyes as I gently caressed his wound with my hand, then dug my nails deep into his flesh. The barely healed wound started bleeding again under my pinch. Zhou's face twisted in pain, trying to shake off my hand, but I gripped even tighter. "Hurts, doesn't it? It's just a fraction of what my brother endured." "Damn." As Zhou was about to throw the basketball in his arms and raise his other hand, I let go, my eyes slightly downcast. I met his gaze, my eyes venomous, and whispered, "Brother Zhou, be more careful where you walk in the future, lest you bump into me again." Perhaps because I made no effort to conceal my hostility, more than anger, Zhou's eyes showed surprise and confusion. He couldn't understand why someone who had always been quiet, buried in her studies and hardly ever spoken in 2 years, harbored such intense resentment against him. I stopped looking at him and let Jianheng pull me away. Those actions were subtle, and Jianheng didn't notice anything unusual, only turned his head slightly in dissatisfaction. "Why do you call everyone brother?" Humming a tune, I felt cheerful and did not respond. Outside the school, near a nearby alley, I could distinctly hear some unusual noises emanating from it, cries, curses, and the clear sound of slaps. I frowned, sensing something was wrong. Jianheng and I exchanged glances, and he told me to stay put while he walked into the alley alone. How could I possibly obey? I followed him. The alley was long and narrow, its walls connected to many old, dilapidated standalone residential buildings. Following the noises, the sounds of laughter and crying grew louder. Finally, in the yard of an abandoned two-story building, I saw Wenru squatting on the ground, crying, surrounded by several rowdy girls. Wenru's hair was disheveled, her face tear-streaked. The leader of the girls poured a can of soda over her head, the beverage dripping continuously through her hair. Her school uniform, shortened deliberately, soaked and clinging tightly to her body, revealing her shapely figure. The girls squatted in front of her, gently slapping her face and laughing loudly. "What are you doing?" Jianheng couldn't just stand by. He picked up a short steel pipe covered in cement from the ground and said calmly, "I've already called the police, they'll be here any minute." Wenru, like a drowning person clutching at a straw, staggered into Jianheng's arms and clung tightly to his waist, her face rubbing against his chest as she cried, like a frightened little rabbit. The girls, initially very arrogant, had their bluster significantly dampened. They looked anxious, repeatedly peering towards the corner of the alley, but it seems necessary under the circumstances. It seemed that she was genuinely afraid that the police would come. At last, the leader, a tough-looking older woman, pointed at Wenru and said gruffly, "You're lucky this time, don't let me catch you again." After saying that, she hurriedly left with her group of followers. I stood behind Jianheng, watching this act of bullying with an expressionless face. As I quietly watched the leader, when she brushed past me, I gave her a grin and whispered, "Long time no see." She glanced at me, puzzled, and hurried off without saying much. Of course, I couldn't forget her. She was the girl who had laughed the loudest at the bar next to Wenru. Listening to Wenru boast about her Queen of the Sea experiences, Jianheng looked somewhat stiff as he comforted Wenru in his arms, gently patting her back and saying softly, "It's okay, don't be afraid, they're gone now." Wenru then looked up, her face still delicate despite being stained with tears, showing no signs of the red slap marks or even any swelling. She looked pitifully at Jianheng and asked, "Can you take me to the hospital?" Jianheng hesitated, then turned to look at me. I smiled broadly. "Why go to a hospital? Just come to our place, it's nearby, we can check you over there." Jianheng was clearly surprised by my offer to take Wenru home out of goodwill, but he didn't say much, just as he didn't when he had rushed in like a hero earlier. Protecting the vulnerable is a natural duty for him, my brother. He could fulfill my minor requests, but interfering with his rescues would only lead him to be increasingly disappointed in me. As it turned out, even if I kept my distance from Wenru in this timeline, she would still go to great lengths to design a chance meeting to get close to Jianheng. Along the way, Wenru clung to Jianheng as if boneless, either tripping over stones or taking dramatic falls on flat concrete. She occasionally let out sharp cries of pain, as if she was genuinely unable to walk. Finally, I stopped and said to her, "You seem very uncomfortable walking, how about I carry you?" I asked seriously, with no hint of impatience. Wenru looked awkwardly at Jianheng, expecting him to have offered, not me. Before she could respond, I had already turned around and bent down to crouch in front of her. Before I could fully squat down, Jianheng grabbed the back of my school uniform and pulled me between him and Wenru, then pointed to a nearby medical supply store and said nonchalantly, "If you can't walk properly, we could buy a wheelchair there." Wenru was even more embarrassed and shook her head repeatedly, insisting she could walk fine. I was slightly surprised. I certainly didn't really want to carry Wenru. My earlier offer was just to make her lower her guard. After the confrontation earlier, her impression of me probably wasn't too good. But why would Jianheng say something so harsh to a girl who had just been bullied? Before I could think further, I realized we had slowly arrived at the entrance of my residential building. I stopped, turned to Jianheng, and said, "Bro, you go ahead with her. I'm going to the convenience store to pick up some things." Jianheng asked, "What are you buying?" I casually replied, "We seem to be out of band-aids and alcohol at home." Without suspicion, Jianheng nodded and walked away with Wenru. I watched as their figures disappeared around the corner, then turned and entered a large digital mall. I headed straight for a well-stocked shop and got straight to the point. I need to buy a smart voice recorder, one with good battery life and remote control via mobile phone. The voice recorder was more expensive than I expected, but it seemed necessary under the circumstances. The device looks more like a mini, slim version of a smartphone. After the transaction was successful, I hurried to the convenience store to buy some alcohol and band-aids. Having done all that, I stood at my front door and rang the doorbell. There are surveillance cameras in the classroom, and it's easy to attract attention outside of school. If I wanted to safely and securely place the recording pen in Wenru's backpack, it had to be done at my home. Only Wenru was in the living room. After Jianheng placed a medical kit and a glass of water on the coffee table, he went into his room. Wenru seemed a bit disappointed, but when she saw me return, she quickly rearranged her expression. I sat down next to her, smiling warmly. I said some harsh things to you this morning. I'm sorry. Hearing this, she touched her hair near her ears and smiled tolerantly. It's okay. I understand how you feel. It's normal to be afraid of someone taking your brother away. I often encounter this. I'm just friends with some boys, but their girlfriends really dislike me. I'm used to it now. As I reached to open the medical kit, a wave of nausea surged in my stomach, and I subtly changed the subject. But why did you get involved with those people just now? Wenru looked somewhat helpless. They were my classmates at my previous school. The guy they liked confessed to me, and they were jealous, I guess. I transferred schools because I couldn't stand the bullying, but they still haven't let go of me. As she spoke, her gaze shifted to my face. What I really envy is someone like you. A simple and unadorned good student who doesn't attract much attention from the opposite sex and can focus on studying. Unlike me, I'm exhausted dealing with unwanted suitors every day. Oh, I don't know why. Even though there are so many girls at school, they still fancy me. I nodded and smiled, patting her leg without engaging further in the conversation. You seemed uncomfortable walking just now. Let's check if there's any injury on your leg first. After saying that, I gestured for her to stretch her leg out on the sofa. Wenru was clearly reluctant. Actually, I'm not really hurt. No need to check. By the way, where's your brother? Isn't he coming out? I raised an eyebrow. He's in his room. Should I call him for you? Wenru smiled. No need to trouble you. I'll go myself. I'd like to see what a boy's room looks like inside. I coldly chuckled, but nodded outwardly. Wenru tidied her hair to maintain a refined look and headed towards Jianheng's room. As her figure disappeared at the doorway of Jianheng's room, I quickly searched her backpack. The backpack wasn't empty, but there were no textbooks or exercise books, not even the homework assigned today. There were just a few romance magazines, a makeup bag, and some other miscellaneous items unrelated to studies. I placed the recording pen in a hidden compartment she wouldn't notice. Wenru came out much faster than I expected. She was only inside for 2 minutes and came out looking very pleased. Jianheng followed behind her, looking weary. Classmate, if there's nothing seriously wrong with you, you should head home early. Jianheng's tone was polite but distant. Wenru sweetly said, I was fine just now, but now I feel a bit uncomfortable. She looked at Jianheng bashfully. Suddenly, my heart is racing. My throat is tight, and I'm breathing rapidly. Jianheng looked at me somewhat speechlessly, and I smiled slightly, walking into the kitchen to grab a kitchen knife. Rapid breathing, you might suffocate. You know, I've read a bit about cricothyrotomy. How about I sterilize and try making an incision in your throat? My kitchen knife is quite clean. Wenru's expression froze, clearly not expecting this turn of events, and quickly waved her hand saying it wasn't necessary. Before leaving, she cautiously looked at Jianheng. Thank you for saving me today. Can I walk to and from school with you guys from now on? I'm afraid of running into those people again today. Jianheng didn't respond. He seemed hesitant, and Wenru's words hit him right where it hurt. If he refused and something really happened to Wenru on the road, he would likely blame himself for the rest of his life. Thus, I didn't give him the chance to decide. Looking into Wenru's eyes, I spoke with a cold and firm tone, word by word. No, you can't. The air seemed to freeze for a moment, and a shadow of resentment briefly crossed Wenru's face. She bit her lip, remained silent for a while, and finally offered a sorrowful smile. At last, she turned to Jianheng, her voice almost pleading. Then, could you take me home? My house isn't far from here. Before Jianheng could respond, I quickly took her by the hand with a smile. I'll take you home. 9. Wenru's home was indeed nearby, just across the street. We hadn't walked far when I noticed her spirits were low. A hint of mockery flashed in my eyes. I patted her shoulder. I'll head back first then. She ignored me. but suddenly called out my name, Jiang. I stopped and looked at her. Her expression was no longer frail and innocent. With a cold gaze and a harsh tone, she said, "It's pitiful how you scheme to keep me away from your brother. Men are all the same. They like beautiful and charming things. And you can't guard against this type of allure. I advise you not to pine for someone you shouldn't. After all, he is your own brother." Even though I was prepared, I couldn't help but laugh in astonishment. What, has she lost her mind? When Rue didn't respond further, leaving behind a meaningful look before turning and walking away, I strolled home alone leisurely. Glancing up casually, I saw several girls across the street. They were in a group, their distinct hair colors and outfits making them quite conspicuous, the same girls who had surrounded Wenru earlier, and they were clearly heading toward Wenru's home. I quickened my pace, hurried home, entered my room, and took out my cell phone to activate the voice recorder. First, there was a faint rustling of static followed by the distinct clinking of glass. "How did it go, Rue? Our act just now wasn't bad, right?" This person sounded quite smug. When Rue snorted, followed by the sound of a glass being slammed down on the table. "What good does it do to act well? Jianheng didn't agree to any of my requests, and Jiang, that wretched woman, is so paranoid about me stealing her brother, guarding him like crazy. Oh wow, it's rare for the Empress to encounter such a tough nut to crack. It's not bad to give you a bit of a challenge, otherwise, what's the fun if men flock to you just by a flick of your hand?" But when Rue's tone was not as relaxed as the others, "Don't talk without experiencing it yourself. After all the effort to stage a play, I still can't even get close to Jianheng. It's just bad luck. And that Zhou Ji, I don't know what got into him today, suddenly snapping at me without any of the loyalty you'd expect from a backup." The others comforted her. "Don't rush it, Rue, it's only your first day of school. The most eligible bachelor at Z Middle School is worth the hassle. And succeeding in the end will feel even more rewarding. If all else fails, just resort to some unconventional means. I know the owner of Blossom Bar sells certain substances. Relax, Rue, we'll find a chance to teach that nasty girl a lesson." "What's her name?" "Jiang. Right." After a while, I pressed the pause button. 10. The first Thursday and Friday of the school term were traditionally reserved for exams. Having already completed my senior year, I was well versed in junior year knowledge and various standard question types. Even without specifically reviewing, I could easily handle the exam. Before the morning reading session, a girl approached me with a thin notebook of mistakes, smiling politely as she asked, "Jiang, could you help explain these questions to me?" I looked up and saw it was Xian Qiu, who sat towards the back of the class, had average grades, and liked to secretly read novels on her phone during less important classes. I nodded and agreed happily, then added one more question. "Did you bring your cell phone today?" During the math test, while everyone else was still furiously writing, I had already finished and was staring idly at the clock on the wall. Although I was zoning out, I could still catch Wenru looking over at my paper out of the corner of my eye, with a slight smirk. I subtly shifted my test paper a bit closer to her to make it easier for her to peek at my answers. A moment later, when the homeroom teacher walked away from the lectern passing by my seat, I put on a surprised and puzzled expression, and in a voice loud enough for the teacher to overhear, I said to Wenru, "Isn't it hard to copy like that? Should I just write it for you?" Before Wenru could react, the homeroom teacher had already turned around and walked over to our seats, looking down at us. "What's going on here?" Wenru was quick to respond. "I was just tired and looking out the window to rest my eyes." I shrugged helplessly. "Maybe you should check the surveillance." "Teacher, I don't know what to say." The teacher stood there, pulled out his phone, and started checking the surveillance. After a moment, he collected Wenru's paper from her desk and said coldly, "Having a top student as your desk mate isn't meant for cheating during tests. You don't need to continue the exam. Go stand outside and wait for your punishment." All eyes in the classroom turned to us, and when Rue's face turned pale with a mix of shame and anger, shooting me a fierce look, I gave her a radiant smile. Only when she stood up and walked out reluctantly did everyone turn their eyes back to their own papers, except for one gloomy gaze that remained fixed on me. The afternoon after the test was another PE class, used for rehearsal for a performance at the school celebration a week later. Our class had submitted a proposal for a ballroom dance. The teacher gave us 10 minutes to choose our dance partners, insisting on mixed-gender pairs for aesthetics. Unsurprisingly, most of the boys, blushing, approached Wenru only to be met with her smiling and shaking her head. She was waiting for the most outstanding boy in our class. Zhou stood with his hands in his pockets for a while before finally walking towards her, passing by Wenru without even noticing her astonished look. He stopped in front of me, he glanced down slightly, looked at me with drooping eyes, then extended the hand I had once injured, palm open, with a smirk and a hint of disdain. He slowly asked, "Miss Top Student, would you like to be my dance partner?" The surprised gazes of our classmates converged on us. As if unable to believe there could be any interaction between us, I pulled out a smile, though it didn't reach my eyes, and gently placed my hand in his. "Please, brother Zhou, teach me well." He suddenly clenched his fingers, gripping my knuckles tightly, painfully. I winced in pain but made no sound. After enjoying my pained expression, he finally loosened his grip, still smiling, but his eyes gradually turned cold. "I've seen your true colors now, crazy girl." During the music-filled practice time, Zhou and I lightly held hands, exchanging dance steps back and forth. I placed my left hand on his shoulder, but he didn't wrap his arms around my waist as expected. Zhou's face was expressionless, his gaze on my face enigmatic. After a moment, he finally spoke. "Do you really dislike me?" Looking into his eyes, I saw only murkiness. I masked my distaste, my lips parting slightly, my eyes innocently wide as I dodged the question. "Zhou, why won't you hold me?" His eyes narrowed slightly, his tone casual. "If I don't hold you, will you not dance?" I replied calmly. "It's the rule. I don't want us both to be punished." He scoffed and turned his head away. Such a good student. I flipped my right hand, interlocking our fingers and pulling his hand to rest on my waist. Zhou's body tensed, his cool gaze fixed on me, though he made no move to pull away. As the melody soared, Zhou's grip tightened. He led me in the dance, swirling around until, at the climax, he pulled me back, locking me tightly against him. Then, he straightened my chin, forcing me to look up at him, a slight smirk on his lips. "Though you're mad, you look much cuter now than when you bury yourself in your studies." I didn't resist, my expression unchanged. "You're hurting me." Only then did Zhou let go, but not before flaunting a wound not yet fully healed. "Does it hurt? Remember, you're the one who gave this to me." I gently touched the wound, my fingertips caressing the surrounding skin, a light laugh escaping me. "It's quite beautiful." The skin had torn open. A rose-colored wound, indeed beautiful. "It's just a pity that the blade hadn't struck Zhou's heart." With a complex expression, Zhou withdrew his hand, his tone no longer cold but more like a murmur to himself. "Jiang Yan, you truly are mad." After school, I didn't pack up but sat at my desk, twirling my pen over a finished test paper. Jiang waited for me by the classroom door as usual, holding several books. I got up and walked over leisurely. "You don't have to wait for me, go home first." "I'll come after I finish my homework." Jiang frowned. "Can't you do it at home?" Catching a glimpse of Wenru watching me from not too far away, I smiled. "Once I start on my problems, I can't stop, otherwise, I lose my train of thought." "Go ahead." Jiang had no choice but to agree, rubbing my head firmly. "Be safe and come home early." He didn't spare Wenru an extra glance as he passed by her. In this timeline, my interference also affects Jiang's judgment. Now, I no longer worry fearfully that Jiang might fall for Wenru as he did in the past. However, those nightmare-like flashes from the past life, along with the recorded audio I had saved, kept reminding me that the wicked must pay a price. Not long after Jiang left, I packed my bag, tapped Xian Qiu's desk, exchanged a look with her, and left the school alone. Sure enough, it wasn't long before a group of people began to slowly follow me, keeping a certain distance. As I reached a less populated area, someone suddenly grabbed me by the neck from behind. Then, a menacing crowd surrounded me. The one who had grabbed me was, of course, the gang leader from before. She laughed dangerously, whispering in my ear, "Little sister, didn't anyone ever tell you that classmates should help each other? Telling tales on your classmates to the teacher is a very shameful thing, you know." After she finished speaking, she grabbed my hair and dragged me into the alley. It was that abandoned residential building again. I stumbled into the open area, and when I looked up, Wenru was already standing there. Before I could steady myself, someone kicked the back of my knees, and I fell to my knees in front of Wenru, looking down at me. Wenru tilted my chin up with her fingertips. "Jiang Yan, you must be quite happy today. You made me lose face in public. And then you flirted with Zhou during gym class. Do you really enjoy slapping me in the face? How should I punish you?" She chuckled softly, and someone yanked my hair back painfully. Wenru raised her hand and slapped me across the face, her long nails scratching a red mark on my cheek. followed by another slap. You should be kowtowing and begging for mercy. Upon hearing this, the gang leader pressed my head down forcefully, smashing my forehead against the ground mixed with gravel. Fists and slaps rained down on my body, causing immense pain accompanied by ringing in my ears. It hurt so much. Did my brother feel the same when he was beaten up in this alley? When Rue picked up a plastic can of drink from the ground, shook it, and poured it over my head, the coldness piercing to the bone, struggling to lift my head. I looked at Wenru with a smile forming at the corner of my mouth. My lips moved. What did you say? Wenru raised her eyebrows and leaned in closer to hear me. I let out a muffled laugh from my throat. I said, your face is so ugly it's blinding. Her face twisted in anger, and she continued to slap me. Tired of hitting me, they started to strip off my clothes, and then took out a mobile phone, smiling brightly. I wonder what everyone would think if they saw our top student looking like this. My clothes were half torn when suddenly noises came from the alley. The gang girls cautiously stopped and looked outside. Weakly lying on the ground, I gazed toward the direction of the noises, breathing heavily, yet feeling a rush of satisfaction. The gang leader kicked me twice more and then suggested to Wenru, let's not stay here, it's not safe, let's go to the old place. Laughter spread among the group again. I was taken to the Blossom Bar. The bar was noisy and dark, with only sporadic neon lights shining on my face, hardly drawing any attention. Even if someone noticed, it seemed to be just another usual scene. I was pushed into a booth, and when Rue sat beside me, lighting a cigarette, she smiled at the gang leader and said, didn't you say the boss sells that kind of drug? Go get some and let's test it on our little guinea pig. Understanding her hint, the gang leader left and soon returned with a small transparent plastic bag containing the drug. She patted my face. Open your mouth. Uncertain of what the drug was, I kept silent and just stared at her coldly. The gang leader laughed dismissively and slapped my face. I fucking told you to open your mouth. When Rue sneered and pressed the lit cigarette onto the back of my hand, the searing pain made me scream in agony. Just as the gang leader was about to shove the pill into my mouth, a low, hoarse male voice reached my ears. What are you doing? I looked up and met Zhou-Ji's eyes. Zhou-Ji's appearance was unexpected, and the wet bang scattered in front of my eyes hid the excitement in them. It was all too perfect. Zhou-Ji had already taken off his school uniform, dressed casually in a baggy black t-shirt, topped with a baseball cap. His gang stood behind him, looking over with keen interest. I immediately recognized the thug who had stabbed my brother to death. Zhou-Ji, when Rue exclaimed in shock, her face turning pale. Zhou-Ji merely glanced at her before shifting his gaze to my face, his expression unreadable. After a moment of silence, he spoke in a cold tone, leave this guy to me. The gang leader was naturally displeased, and though she was annoyed, she could tell Zhou-Ji was not someone to be trifled with. She patted Zhou-Ji on the shoulder. Brother, stay out of our business. As soon as she finished speaking, Zhou-Ji grabbed her fingers and twisted them outward. The gang leader cursed in pain. Meanwhile, Zhou-Ji's face remained stern as he gave a cold laugh. Who's your brother? When Rue quickly pulled the gang leader back, feigning composure as she addressed Zhou-Ji. Zhou-Ji, it was Jiang Yan who provoked me first, and my friend was just teaching her a lesson. We meant no harm. If you still want to play, this one's yours. Zhou-Ji didn't even look at her and simply said one word, scram. When Rue and her gang left, and Zhou-Ji came to sit next to me, he remained silent. And a youngster from the gang jokingly broke the silence. Brother Zhou, who is this? A whistle sounded, and another person laughed. Who else could make Brother Zhou play the hero but her? Amid the teasing, Zhou-Ji didn't even frown but looked at me casually, his eyes playful. He said sternly, any more nonsense, and you can scram too. The others wisely fell silent. I maintained calm eye contact with Zhou-Ji, although my gaze didn't settle. And I kept an eye on the thug who had killed Jiang Heng. He looked ordinary but had fierce and sinister eyes. The rest were relaxed, drinking and smoking. Only he sat with a stern face, lost in thought. As I was still distracted, Zhou-Ji's hand reached my face, forcing me to refocus. His fingertips slid across my cheek, tracing the distinct marks of a slap. Not very good at frenzying, are you? Look at the state you've gotten yourself into. His tone was mockingly playful. I smiled and lowered my lashes, placing my hand over his on my cheek, my tone slightly sarcastic. Are you going to avenge me? Zhou-Ji seemed amused by the idea. Avenge you? What would you do for me? I didn't respond, just gently held his fingers. Zhou-Ji didn't pull away, his gaze intense. Aren't you afraid I might ask for something excessive? I raised an eyebrow. How excessive? want to sleep with me? Zhou Ji stiffened, his expression darkening, and he gripped my wrist in return. You really have a way with words, always surprising me. I had never really intended for Zhou Ji to avenge me. Realizing that staying here was a waste of time, I forcefully broke away and stood up to leave. Zhou Ji showed no reaction, and as I walked past the gang, someone grabbed my arm, smirking cheekily. Sister-in-law, leaving so soon, why not stay a bit longer? I was about to shake him off when Zhou Ji's deep voice came from behind. Don't touch her. The man reluctantly let go. As I passed the thug, he was looking down at his phone. I quickly glanced at him without a trace, other than having heavy dark circles. There was nothing remarkable about his appearance, and on his phone screen, the details show a transfer payment from a balance. The balance displayed is only a few dollars, however, it shows numerous large expenditures in whole numbers at different times. This person is clearly strapped for cash. At least for now, I didn't have time to look closely. As I locked eyes with the young punk, who looked dejected and emotionless, suppressing the urge to stab him, I turned away and left the booth. After leaving the bustling bar, I ignored the astonished looks from passers-by and pulled out a cell phone from my backpack. I put on wireless earbuds and opened the app connected to the remote-controlled recording pen, and pressed the record button. The recording pen, which was tucked away in the backpack before Wenru discovered it, had already been retrieved by me, just moments ago. During the brief confrontation between Zhou Ji and the gang leader, I took advantage of the dim lighting to slip the recording pen back into a crevice beneath the booth's sofa. 14. Brother Zhou, who was that girl just now? She looked quite innocent. It was an unfamiliar voice, still carrying a hint of sleaze. A lunatic, replied Zhou Ji. Damn, really? The vibe between you two earlier made me want to move to another spot. Didn't want to interrupt, ha 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 ha. I walked slowly on my way home, patiently listening to some meaningless chatter. Finally, a different piece of information came through the earphones, in a voice hoarse and a bit frightening. Brother Zhou, could you lend me some more money? At this, everyone fell silent, the atmosphere turning dead. After a moment, I heard the click of a lighter. Didn't I just lend you 20,000 last time? Zhou Ji's voice sounded emotionless. Yes, but my mom's really sick, and 20,000 is far from enough. Among all my brothers, you're the only one who can help me. I heard Zhou Ji snicker. 20,000 isn't enough. I'm afraid even 200,000 wouldn't be enough for your spending, Li Si. You know whether you're using the money for your mom's treatment or for gambling. Li Si's voice grew agitated. I'm not ******ing gambling. Then there was a loud crash of a bottle being smashed. Li Si, are you ******ing sick? Does Zhou Ji owe you anything? Yes, you're not gambling, so tell me how much you borrowed for gambling at those high interest rates, where the daily interest alone must be around 20,000, your mom is almost dying in bed. And you can't even bear to buy her something decent. If it weren't for Zhou Ji continuously paying the hospital bills, your mother would have been in the grave long ago. What the ***** do you care? The argument was loud, almost painful to my ears. I stood at the base of my apartment building, turned off the recording, and the glass window of the security room reflected my face, disheveled and scarred, yet I was smiling. A greedy gambler, under the right circumstances, can also turn into a deadly weapon. Although my home was on the 4th floor, it was a struggle to climb, gasping for air as if the pain from the beating I received earlier was reconverging in my body. My temples ached, my head felt heavy, and I had to cling to the railing to keep from fainting. Standing in front of my door, I took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. Jiangheng opened the door, holding a glass of milk. Seeing me, he lost his grip, and the milk spilled all over, shattering the glass on the ground. Ignoring his astonished look, I sighed, wanting to go in and grab a broom to clean up the mess. As I passed him, he grabbed my arm, his hand resting on my shoulder. A hand trembling slightly touched my face. The voice choked up, unable to fully articulate the words. Shanyan, tell your brother. What happened? I was too weak to resist his touch. I wanted to smile at him, but even that small gesture felt exhausting. Finally, I barely managed to whisper, brother, I'll be alright soon. Before I passed out, the last thing I saw was Jiangheng's pale and bewildered face. 15. I didn't know how long I had been unconscious, but when I opened my eyes again, I found myself lying in a hospital bed. Jiangheng was resting his head by my bed, seemingly asleep. I lay there, eyes open, quietly staring at the ceiling. Soon after, my mother came in, one hand filled with bags and the other holding a double-layered thermal bowl. seeing me awake. She was both shocked and overjoyed, hurriedly placing her things on the cabinet beside my bed, but tears were already falling. "Are you awake, darling? Do you feel discomfort anywhere?" I obediently shook my head. Jiangheng was also awakened by the noise. He looked groggy at first but quickly became alert and reached out to feel my forehead. "Good, no fever." On the side, my mother was calling my father, telling him I was awake and complaining about how long he took to park the car. Jiangheng stared at me intently, his eyes filled with concern. He brushed the hair from my face, his voice soft. "From now on, I won't let you go home alone." I blinked and gave a faint smile to show I understood. "Tell me, who did this to you?" As he spoke, his expression turned dark, a look I was unfamiliar with. I remained silent, just looking at him. After my mother finished her call, she rushed to my bedside, crying, "Shan Yan, tell Mom, who did this? We've reported to the police and tried to check the surveillance footage on your way home, but there was a power outage in that residential area this afternoon, and they couldn't retrieve anything." I shook my head. "Was it someone you don't know?" I nodded. "With no surveillance, there was no evidence. The only evidence was in my hands, and I couldn't just hand it over carelessly. Even after reporting it, it would likely be dismissed as just another case of school bullying. When Rue and those other girls were still minors, and the marks on me were superficial, not even qualifying as minor injuries legally, in the end, it would probably just result in a civil mediation or perhaps a letter of apology." Outside the hospital room, I heard my father's hurried footsteps. He slowed down as he reached the door, his eyes red as he looked at me. Seeing that I was in good spirits, he forced a grim smile. "Our daughter has suffered, let's have something to eat." Since I was not seriously hurt, I was discharged from the hospital that evening and went home. Before bed, Jiangheng brought a cup of warm milk to my bedside, gently saying, "It's the weekend, so just rest at home these next couple of days, and regain your strength before going back to school." I hummed in response. Jiangheng didn't leave. He stood by my bed, his expression solemn, the room almost deadly silent. I was puzzled. "What's wrong?" He leaned closer, gazing into my eyes intently. "Shan Yan, don't hide anything from me, no matter what." My eyelashes quivered slightly, and I finally managed a soft "Sleep now." Jiangheng's hand gently covered my eyes. After Jiangja turned off the last dim light and left, I lay in bed staring at the dark ceiling. After waiting quietly for a while, I sat up and pulled out my phone from under the pillow. As soon as I turned it on, I received a video from Xian Qiu. The video was short, but it clearly showed the fierce faces of Wenru and those few rowdy girls, as well as their violent acts. Below the video, there were a few messages. "Jian Yan, I'm sorry, I was too scared. I accidentally made a noise and ran away, so I didn't capture the whole process. Although I don't know what you plan to do, if you need help, please tell me. I will stand by your side without hesitation." I didn't reply. I turned off the phone screen and fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up the next day, Jiangheng had left for work, as had my parents. The house was quiet, leaving me alone. I washed up, backed up the audio recordings from the bar last night, and then completed the exercises in my workbook according to the lesson schedule. After finishing everything, I collapsed back onto the bed and noticed a few messages that had popped up on my phone. One was from Xian Qiu. "Jian Yan, are you okay?" Another was a friend request. The profile picture was a plain Monet gray, with no remarks. I first replied to Xian Qiu, "I'm fine, don't worry." Then without expression, I accepted the friend request. Immediately, this person sent me a message, just 3 brief words. "Where are you?" I replied, "Who are you?" Of course, I could guess who it was. The person quickly sent a voice message. Upon listening, it was indeed Zhou Ji's deep voice. He said, "Send me your address. I want to see you." I smiled silently at the phone screen, slowly touching the screen. I typed out a message and sent it. "Let's meet at Fanhua Bar." This time, Zhou Ji didn't reply immediately. It took a while before his message came through. "I'm already here." I didn't reply, lay on the bed for a while longer, then slowly got up and changed clothes. When I entered the bar, I spotted Zhou Ji immediately. He was looking down at his phone, his expression dark and intimidating. As I slowly walked towards him, he also looked up and saw me. His brows were furrowed, his expression not pleasant. He squeezed out a few words through clenched teeth. "You're quite punctual." I sat down beside him, my expression indifferent. "My whole body hurts, so I was a bit slow." Zhou Ji was silent for a moment, then could only grunt in acknowledgement. I looked around the bar, which was rather empty on a weekday morning. Though there were still some idlers around, I casually asked. "Where are your friends?" Zhou seemed displeased. "Just me. Is that a problem?" I smiled and said offhandedly, "Just curious to know more about you." Hearing this, he slightly curved his lips, picked up the glass on the table, and downed it in one go. Then a phone call later, a group of rowdy youths arrived, arm in arm, including that Li Si, brother Zhou. "What do you need?" One of the young men rubbed his hands together, excitedly speaking. Zhou stretched an arm out, casually draping it over the back of the sofa behind me. His hand hung casually by my shoulder, easily giving the illusion that he had his arm around me. He glanced at me with a touch of arrogance and said, "Ask them whatever you want to know." Their piercing stares and the blend of tobacco and alcohol fumes enveloped me, making me slightly nauseous. At times, I felt disoriented. I wondered why I was enduring such vulgarities here instead of attending classes amidst the chirping birds and blooming flowers of the school buildings. Pointing to Li Si, who clearly seemed uninterested, I smiled and said, "I'm more interested in him." The room fell silent. I leaned back unintentionally against Zhou. Though I wasn't looking at him, I could feel his warm breath near my ear as he whispered, "Isn't there anything you want to ask about me?" Seeing that I remained silent, he scoffed and commanded, "Li Si, answer whatever Jiang asks you." Only then did Li Si look at me. His posture was stooped, his expression gloomy. I remarked lightly, "This brother doesn't seem to like me very much." At that, someone clapped Li Si on the shoulder in a warning manner and chuckled at me. "This kid lost money last night and racked up some debt, so he's in a bad mood. Don't worry, he wouldn't turn on his brothers, right, Li Si?" Li Si remained silent, his gaze still downcast. I leaned closer to Zhou and spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Just because they call you brother, are you supposed to clean up their messes?" Li Si's gaze snapped up, a flicker of hope on his face as he awaited Zhou's response, but Zhou remained silent. His subordinate spoke up, frowning, "You don't know, Sister Jiang, Zhou has already been too good to him, lending him money every other day. Which one of us brothers hasn't he borrowed from? This guy is a bottomless pit. His mother was nearly dying and still, he gambled away the hospital fees provided by Zhou." I chuckled softly, "Brother Zhou really is capable." Zhou replied indifferently, "Stay out of this, it's dirty." After his comment, a chorus of jeers rose from the surrounding gangsters. I nodded as if conceding, stood up and said, "I'm going to use the restroom." After navigating through a couple of turns and a long corridor, I found the ladies' room. When I came out after washing my hands, Li Si was already waiting by the door, pretending to be surprised. I exclaimed, "You." He quickly stepped forward, covering my mouth, and pleaded, "Sister Jiang, I know Zhou likes you. Can you please ask him to lend me some more money? I swear I won't gamble again. Debt collectors come to my house every day, and I haven't slept well in a long time. You have a kind heart, and Zhou isn't short on money. If you ask him, he will definitely agree. I beg you, I beg you." After saying this, Li Si actually knelt down before me. I stared emotionlessly at the top of his head, my mind replaying the scene of Jianheng being stabbed to death. Was it necessary for a group of thugs to bring knives to beat up a student? No matter the circumstances, Li Si was a gambler, and his monetary disputes with Zhou were inevitable. Violent debt collection, a sick family member, and being penniless could drive anyone to desperation. I swallowed my speculations. Even if Li Si would eventually turn against Zhou, that day was still too late for me. I didn't have the patience. I sighed, crossed my arms, and leaned against the wall, saying helplessly, "You really put me in a difficult position by saying this. Instead of humbly asking Zhou for money, it would be better to first tightly grasp the resources already at your disposal." The daily hospitalization fee at the city center hospital is about 1,500, isn't it? That adds up to nearly 10,000 a week. Since Zhou is willing to cover this expense for you, why not take this initial gambling stake and give it another shot? It's a dead end either way. If I were you, I'd just go for broke. If you win, you'll have carved out a new path for yourself. After all, when luck has bottomed out, even the heavens will start looking out for you. After saying this, I bent over, patted Li Si on the shoulder, and whispered in his ear, "I believe in you." I came out of the restroom, glanced at the clock near the bar, and realized it was time for lunch. I originally planned to signal from a distance with a gesture, telling Zhou I was about to leave. After all, that group of people, sitting there in their filthy circle, even coming near them felt unlucky, but in a blink of an eye, I saw Zhou leaning against the wall near the door, half his face hidden in the darkness. Obscure and indistinct, he saw me, smiled slightly, and extended his hand. "Let's go have lunch." I followed him out, walking up to a black, heavily modified Harley-Davidson motorcycle. He placed a brand new pink helmet on my head and gestured for me to get on. I stood there, a complex expression on my face, hesitating. Zhou Ji's eyebrows raised slightly. "Are you scared?" I reminded him. "We're still underage." His expression became more defiant. "Don't worry, even if we get stopped by traffic police, no one would dare to touch me." He had an air of entitlement, as if it was his natural right, the same cruel and indifferent demeanor he had when he told the police. I didn't know he had a knife. In a previous life, he hadn't even frowned over my brother's death, as if it was a trivial matter. "Zhou Ji, how could you go unpunished?" I smiled softly. "Impressive." "Indeed." Then I swung my leg over, climbed onto his bike, wrapped my arms around his waist, and rested my face against his back. "Then I'm in your hands." Zhou Ji caressed the back of my hand briefly, then patted it, accelerating the motorcycle down the road. For the remainder of the afternoon, he took me to a high-end restaurant, a cable car to the cloud tops, and a misty field of flowers. I ate without tasting, and had no interest in accompanying him on his excursions, my mind wandering on the edge. When he dropped me off at my building in the evening, I got off the bike, removed the helmet, and handed it back to him. He frowned. "Did you really not enjoy our date?" I lifted my eyelids, gave him a mocking smile. "So, this was a date? I thought we were just playing house." Zhou Ji's face suddenly darkened, and in a fit of anger, he slammed his fist down on the bike, gritting his teeth. "Jiang Yan, you really irritate me." I smiled, turned, and headed home. That night, in my room, typing on the computer, someone knocked on the door. I shouted, "Come in." Jiang Heng entered carrying a plate of sliced fruit, placed it on my desk, and spoke with a smile in his voice. "You're still interested in programming?" Without looking up, I replied, "Just bored." Picking it up casually, "You're entering the informatics competition." I paused, then reluctantly nodded. "Pretty impressive," he said. "Do you want to get into Tsinghua or Peking University?" Jiang Heng was obviously teasing me, and I was happy to joke around with him. I rolled my eyes, pretending to be hesitant. "Tsinghua, maybe." His eyes crinkled more at the corners as he smiled. "Ambitious, aren't you? Then I'll have to work hard too, to join my little sister at Tsinghua." The following week was uneventful. I attended classes methodically and walked to and from school with Jiang Heng punctually. When Ru occasionally played pranks on me, like gluing my seat or pouring the water from my bottle into my backpack, I took all these pranks in stride. Since our separation last Saturday, Zhou Ji had been unusually cold towards me. Even during the dance practice and PE class, he kept a stern face and remained silent. However, during the crescendo of the melody, as I spun into his arms, I could catch a glimpse of his blushing ears. The school's 160th anniversary celebration was set for the second Friday after the school year started. Z Middle School, being a key high school, hosted a grand celebration. Trees heavy with fruit, a celebration of life, rooms filled with orchids, painting a shared blueprint. The alumni garden tour for the celebration had more than 30,000 reservations. This included many notable alumni, from officials at various levels to entrepreneurs big and small. The biggest highlight was undoubtedly Gon Lin, an alumnus from the class of '86, who had appeared on the Forbes billionaires list and had donated 5 buildings to Z Middle School. Additionally, the celebration would be broadcast globally, providing the most direct and timely coverage of the campus activities. The live broadcast reservations reached over 100,000 people, and the number of WeChat shares of the event reached 180,000. It was undoubtedly a magnificent feast. On the day of the celebration, after the torch relay tradition, it was time for the cultural performance we had been rehearsing for a week. When it was our class's turn, the melody of the waltz filled the air. This time, Zhou Ji properly held my waist, moving forward and back in step with the music. At the climax, he pinched my waist hard, his eyes and brows carrying a sharp, mischievous smile. I merely glanced at him indifferently. During the 160th anniversary ceremony, as usual, a documentary about the century-long history of Z Middle School was played on a large screen. After the host passionately finished the speech, the big screen lit up. Everyone smiled and applauded. However, the next moment, the faces of Wenru and her gang appeared on the big screen. In the video, she was laughing viciously, cursing as she furiously slapped someone's face. The audience's expressions changed, some screamed, and many murmured and pointed. They didn't know who the person being beaten was. This wasn't the first time I watched from a third-person perspective as they punched, kicked, tore at my clothes, and slapped me, but this time, an unparalleled sense of satisfaction rose in my heart. The effect of the video projected on the big screen was clearer than I had imagined. As their actions grew more cruel, the crowd's anger surged like a river overflowing its banks, suddenly breaking free. That's when Rue, the transfer student from class 2 of the second year, damn, she looks so pretty, how can she be so venomous, she doesn't deserve to be at our school, send her to jail, go to hell, murderer. Amidst the countless curses, when Rue lunged at me, her eyes red with rage, she tightly grasped my neck. You bitch, it must be you, you want to ruin my life, even if I go to hell, I'll drag you down with me. I didn't struggle. Watching her nearly frenzied state, I restrained myself to avoid bursting into excited laughter. Naturally, the students around us pulled Rue away from me, as she made her desperate attack. Everyone then knew that I was the victim in the video. The security team arrived just in time. After they subdued and removed Rue, the noise at the venue still lingered for a long time. Many people surrounded me, offering their sympathy, concern, and pity, which I accepted with smiles. Among the crowd, I saw Jianheng struggling to push through the throng and run in my direction, but the next second, another person grasped my wrist. As I looked up, I met Zhou Ji's cold, stern gaze. He said, "Come with me." I followed him. I didn't look back at Jianheng. "Sorry, brother, I'll be back soon." Zhou Ji pulled me out of the crowd and we ran out of the campus. Since it was the school's anniversary, there was a high volume of people entering and exiting the campus. And we were in our ballroom dance attire, so the security did not stop us. He led me to a Harley motorcycle, helped me put on a helmet, and simply said, "Get on." I obeyed. The motorcycle sped away, eventually stopping at the entrance of the Blossom Bar. Zhou Ji, holding me, entered without a word. Inside, the usual faces of some familiar thugs greeted us, but Zhou Ji ignored them. He chose a private booth and called over the front desk, ordering every type of alcohol on the menu. Cheap and expensive alike. I frowned. "I don't drink." Zhou Ji, not looking at me, said, "If you can't, you can learn. When I'm upset, I drink. It helps me feel better." I smiled. "How did you know I'm not happy?" Then he finally allowed his gaze to rest on my face, deep and focused. "You've been wronged." I raised an eyebrow. "Aren't you going to avenge me?" Zhou Ji gave me a deep look and firmly said, "I will." I turned away from him to face the waiter. "I want a fruit platter." The waiter nodded with a smile and withdrew. Shortly after, an array of colorful cocktails and a beautifully arranged fruit platter were served, each piece of fruit cut neatly and served with a fork. I frowned slightly, casually saying, "Isn't there a knife?" The waiter, puzzled, responded, "Miss, the fruit is already cut for you, you can eat it with a fork." I smiled calmly, "But I prefer using a knife, preferably a sharp one, it tastes better that way." Zhou Ji said sternly from beside me, "Do it." The waiter nodded and soon brought a knife. Watching me play with the fruit with the knife, Zhou Ji chuckled, "Childish." I rested my head on my hand, bored, as Zhou Ji wrapped his arm around me, his fingertips twirling a lock of hair by my ear. Suddenly, a commotion at the entrance of the bar caught my attention. Li Si rushed in, tripping and stumbling as if desperately seeking refuge. Seeing Zhou Ji, he seemed to find a lifeline. He knelt at Zhou Ji's feet with a thud, clutching his legs. His voice trembling, "Zhou, brother Zhou, you must save me this time." Zhou Ji frowned, clearly impatient, about to speak but was interrupted by a loud noise. A group stormed into the bar, led by a boss wielding an iron rod, sporting a crew cut, a white tank top, and notably tattooed arms. The disturbance began with someone deliberately smashing a few bottles of wine to create a commotion before slowly meandering up to Zhou Ji. With a tone dripping with disdain, he said, "Well, what a surprise to see young Master Zhou here." Zhou Ji's followers quickly gathered around him in a protective stance, only to be pushed back by the henchmen of the tattooed boss. The scene grew chaotic. Zhou Ji calmly patted my hand, his eyes flashing a hint of fierce determination. Without wasting words, the tattooed boss pressed a metal rod against Li Si's head and growled, "I'm not here to make things difficult. Just hand over this deadbeat dog who owes money, and we're good." Zhou Ji glanced at Li Si and replied indifferently, "He's my friend." The tattooed boss scoffed, "Look Zhou, no offense, but what kind of person like you befriends a scumbag who gambles away his own mother's life-saving money? I really think less of you now." Zhou Ji froze, his brows furrowing darkly. "What did you say?" Eager to clarify, the tattooed boss leaned in closer and enunciated each word. This scumbag used his mother's hospital money for gambling, claiming he could pay me back. Now his mother has been decomposing at home for days, do you get it? As soon as the tattooed boss finished speaking, Zhou Ji grabbed Li Si by the collar and swung a heavy punch at him. Li Si fell to the ground, and just as he tried to get up, Zhou Ji yanked him back to his feet and landed another fierce punch. The glass on the table shattered, and a knife fell to the floor. Zhou Ji's voice was terrifyingly grim as he hissed through clenched teeth, "I gave you money for your mother's hospital bills. And this is how you use it." Trembling and pale, Li Si stammered, "Brother Zhou, let me explain." Before he could finish, Zhou Ji slapped him again. The tattooed boss stood by, arms crossed, watching the drama unfold with glee. As Zhou Ji raged, the temperature around them seemed to drop. He kicked Li Si repeatedly in the stomach. After venting his anger, Zhou Ji crouched down, grabbed Li Si by the hair, and whispered fiercely, "You're nothing but lifelong trash." He then stood up, straightened his disheveled suit, and said coolly to the tattooed boss, "He's yours now." Li Si lay gasping on the ground, his body twitching like a writhing maggot. From my angle, I could clearly see the despair and raging hatred in his expression. He glared at Zhou Ji's retreating figure as if trying to bore a hole through him. The room was dim. I stretched out my leg and discreetly kicked the knife toward Li Si. Seizing the knife, Li Si struggled to his feet and charged at Zhou Ji, plunging the knife deep into him. Shocked, the tattooed boss cursed and reacted, "Damn it, kill this lunatic." People rushed to restrain Li Si, who had completely lost his mind, stabbing Zhou Ji repeatedly while hurling vile curses. By the time they subdued him, Zhou Ji was already clutching his abdomen, pale, and collapsed on the floor. Feigning shock and fear, I rushed to Zhou Ji's side and cradled him in my arms. "Jiang Yan," in pain. Zhou Ji could hardly speak. He gasped for air and weakly pulled my head down towards his lips, but now, his strength was fading. I obediently lowered my head and softly asked, "Are you okay?" Zhou Ji didn't speak again, he just focused on me, and as our lips were about to touch, I turned my head and couldn't help but let out a light laugh. His expression was full of confusion and grievance, like a child whose beloved toy had just been stolen. I leaned in close to his ear, my voice low. "This is the extreme pain of a knife piercing your body. Remember this feeling deep in your bones." Blood continuously flowed from Zhou Ji's body. Under the neon lights, it looked like a rose-colored exquisite piece of art. He stared at me with wide eyes as I gently caressed his face, looking deeply into his eyes. "Zhou Ji, in your next life, live kindly. Since the law cannot judge you, let God do the judging." Zhou Ji's body relaxed, motionless, his final expression a mix of fear and confusion. I didn't want to look anymore. I reached out and gently closed his eyes. After giving a brief statement to the police, I stood at the entrance of the police station, where Jiangheng came to pick me up. He looked at me indifferently, following his gaze down to the horrifying bloodstain on my pristine white dress. It was Zhou Ji's blood. I looked up, opened my mouth, but in the end, I just called out, "Brother." Jiangheng didn't respond. He simply took off his coat, wrapped it around my waist, and tied it, perfectly covering the bloodstain. After doing this, he put his arm around my shoulders and said blankly, "Let's go home." As the sky darkened, Jiangheng and I walked shoulder to shoulder in silence, each keeping to an unspoken agreement. I wondered how to explain everything to Jiangheng when he asked, and where to even start. Should I begin with the absurd time reversal that even I couldn't understand? Should I tell him that he had already died once, and everything I did was for his revenge? The word revenge popped into my mind, and I suddenly found it ironic. Even I couldn't clarify whether what I did was for revenge or redemption. My thoughts drifted, but were pulled back by Jiangheng's question. "That afternoon, did you really just go to buy alcohol and band-aids?" I wasn't surprised, just calmly replied, "No." Jiangheng hummed, sort of chuckled, and muttered to himself, "Dragged into an alley and suffered like that. Yet you wouldn't tell me the truth. You deliberately learned programming to hack into the school's computer during the anniversary celebration and swap that video. Do you not trust your brother?" I was taken aback, shook my head immediately, feeling a whirlwind of emotions, but couldn't find the words to speak. "It's okay." Jianheng raised his hand, gently stroking my head. "It's all in the past now. I don't want to guess those puzzles anymore. Whatever is troubling you, forget all about it. I will take you forward." The video from the anniversary day had been streamed live and clips had been shared online. The bullying incident featuring Wenru dominated the trending searches for several days, under public pressure. The education authorities and police reacted swiftly. Many well-known alumni expressed their condemnation of bullying on social media. Z Middle School urgently established an anti-bullying association. When Rue was expelled, as she was a minor and the injuries she inflicted were legally considered minor, she did not face any administrative punishment. After all, the law is not swayed by public opinion. However, some netizens found her phone number and home address through unconventional means. The kinder ones sent abusive messages, while others went as far as sending dead cockroaches and rats to her doorstep. It was said that the companies and workplaces of Wenru's parents and relatives were affected, all having been suspended. Wenru, driven to a mental breakdown and severe depression, was admitted to a psychiatric hospital by her parents. As for the truth and the lies, that is a story for another time. On this particular weekend, I was in my room copying notes when there was a knock on the door. I raised my voice and called out, "Come in." Jiangheng entered, slinging a backpack over one shoulder and cradling several workbooks in his arms, a smile playing at the corner of his mouth as he raised an eyebrow and suggested, "Let's head to the library." I was full of complaints. I just pulled an all-nighter finishing some test papers yesterday. Can't I at least rest for a bit? Jiangheng spoke earnestly. After all, we need to get into Tsinghua together. Urged by him, I packed my bag. As I got up, the corner of my shirt brushed over my notebook, pausing on a particular page. On that page, there was just one sentence: "We may shatter and fall into the abyss, but we will eventually be lifted and healed. We have nothing to fear."